I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room because it's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just I don't know is killing people right now.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Most people who vape are current or former smokers. For the addicted adult smoker who switches, there's going to likely be a reduction in risk.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping. Yeah.
When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Well, howdy, and welcome to another Friday night Son of Liberty Radio. I am the host, Patrick, the Son of Liberty Radio. In a just a string of amazing guests this week, I've been really excited to get our guest on tonight. I've been nagging him for a long time to come on again because he's been on before, and you know, we're going to talk about some stuff tonight that you guys probably have already heard, but I think it's best to hear it straight from him. But before we get him on, let me bring in my cohort, the Ginger from Ohio. Let's bring on Kevin to say hello to Kevin. Hello, Kevin. Oh, he's muted again. Kevin, unmute yourself.
There, how's that? Bunch of chuckleheads.
All, you know, like every week you do this. This is like 3 weeks in a row.
I know.
That you're just, you know, you're fucking up. See, I already brought the drinking word out first.
There, that's where we're going. Uh-oh, Keith's coming in. And Bridget.
Uh-oh.
And Thomas. And Shannon.
Did you or someone tag Brian or Bruni?
Yes.
To make sure that he is coming or here, because he's getting at that age where he doesn't remember things, and I don't think he knows how to set an alarm on his phone. And I really enjoy having him here.
I didn't tag him.
So
I think he's here.
Somebody tag Bruni if you haven't already. I see a lot of guys. I see a lot of people. So let's say hello to people first. I see Tom and some nerd named Kevin and Shannon and David and David again and Shannon. See, you know, a lot of you people. Thomas is here. Bridget's here. Keith is here. There's Paul Blameyer and Adam, who is Breeze Tones. He's from Australia too. We have our normal contingent of Aussies and Kiwis. You guys don't fight in the chat room too much. I know you guys are, you know, sometimes. So let's just be clear. Let's just be clear. Y'all supposed to be friends tonight. But anyway, hey Kevin, are you super excited? Are you super excited about our guest tonight?
I'm worn out from last week's science that was performed, and if you missed it, go watch the show.
You should. If you haven't watched Eliana come on the show and actually perform science on cam,
science
like
data, research,
that was amazing and epic and awesome. And then obviously, if you have extra time, you need to watch the Dr. Chauncey Gardner or Charles Gardner show. That was amazing and awesome and cool.
I don't know when we're going to get a call from Fox or CBS or somebody to get us a real regular show, but I'm assuming we will.
Well,
and to answer the question,
I think we're not going to get back standards and practices because we do cuss more than what they're allowed on network TV.
They got a beep button. So to answer your question, I'm kind of ultra excited because I don't know nicotine, and I like this. I like this idea.
So anyway, there's this film, and Kevin actually drove like long distances in his car to go see this film at the premiere, and he was on a gag order. Like, we made him not talk about this until it was allowed to be talked about, and now we're at the stage where it's allowed to be talked about. But I'm not going to let Kevin talk about it. I'm going to let the guy that made the movie talk about it, because
I ain't really talked about it yet. I didn't know I was allowed to yet.
Well, we've been very vague. So
It's out now.
Anyway, so since everybody kind of knows, plus his face is on the intro video, everybody knows that Aaron Biebert is here to talk to us about himself, about his two films. Well, I think he's made more than that, but about two of his films, and we're just gonna shoot the breeze. And I know before we went live, he went to his liquor cabinet and brought out something to drink. So if we make him drink too much, he might say something that he'll regret. So I don't know if we want him to drink too much or not. So anyway, let's welcome Aaron Biebert to the stream. Hello, Aaron Biebert.
How are we doing?
See?
I think we would have more viewers if it was Justin Bieber, but I don't know.
We are related, just so everybody knows. So
No.
yeah,
Are you really?
like seventh cousins or something? Yeah.
Well, but his name has no T on the end, and
Yeah,
you do
but
have.
that was a slight adjustment at the border. We are related though. Yeah, like
Those damn Canadians.
Yeah, my family's name is Bieber, actually. It's just the T got added when they got exiled as refugees to Lithuania, and they added a T for some reason, but we are the same family, so. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So now there will be people asking for you to reach out through your seventh cousin connection to get free Bieber tickets. Is he still a thing?
Yeah. He just put out a couple songs that are pretty hot. So I was actually just rocking his music the other day and let him know, cuz I'm worried about you. I hope you're doing all right. And yeah, he's doing all right. So that's good. Just got married, and yeah, he's kind of growing up now. All grown up, our little Justin. So,
Now he married some famous person's daughter, right, or something?
I don't know her like that. I just know her for the sweet soul she is, as my seventh cousin-in-law.
So there was one thing in the movie. There was one thing in the movie that I didn't know about you.
Well,
there was one thing in the movie. Well, you were talking about being banning cigarettes in your 200-bed residential facility. I didn't know that you did that before you did the other stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I am actually a certified long-term care administrator. So yeah, I got into healthcare actually as my second career, and was doing, believe it or not, this crazy guy was running parts of hospitals and entire medical facilities in this case. Yeah. 200 staff members. And yep, this guy right here wanted to, in his ripe old age of like 27, decided everybody needed to quit smoking, and but we'll provide gum for you, so don't worry.
Aw.
That was very sweet of
Well,
you. I mean, I'm amazed at how awesome. you did
That was
it.
very nice of you. That was, but it sucks.
Gum.
I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
The gum doesn't work. It doesn't stay on fire when you try to smoke it. It's not very good. Kevin, look at Kevin's trying not to laugh at that joke.
Drink.
Alright.
Well, you're drinking coffee.
I am drinking coffee. I love coffee.
Scold.
You can't see.
I
Oh, yeah,
love
can't see it.
caffeine. We're gonna have a caffeine show one night.
Actually, since I know somebody that owns a distillery that used to be in vaping, I promised him that I would do a whiskey show and have him on and talk about whiskey. So one day, Rodney Jerebeck will be on the show and we will talk about booze and wine because I think he's bottling wine as well. So anyway, Aaron, what have you been doing? You've been away for like 2 years.
Today, what have I been doing? Oh, goodness.
You got 2 years to catch us up on everything.
Making a movie, basically, as well as other stuff. I think people sometimes get this weird impression that Jenny and I are like hippies that just live like on our uncle's farm and we just make films together and we just eat off the land and like,
Nice. You're off the grid,
Don't
Yeah,
blow my image.
Yeah,
So,
we get some
Aaron-
interesting ideas, but yeah.
That thing that we talked about earlier. They're already bitching and moaning in the chat room that your audio needs a 20% boost.
Yeah,
So move 20% closer to the camera.
Yeah, I
Or
just
microphone.
I just moved. Well, actually, I believe the mics are right here. Believe it or not.
Oh, that's
I
better.
did-
Whatever you just did.
I did increase the volume on your system here, so I don't know if that helped or not, but I don't know. Is it louder or no?
Yes.
There,
Thomas,
I just put it
turn it
all the way up. So I don't know if that helps. or not.
Nobody is saying no, so we're just going to
Okay.
go with that because
All
I
right.
hear you.
I'm just gonna talk.
It's all about me.
Nice
It's all
and
about
loud. Yeah, I'm just gonna talk nice and loud, and it's gonna be a good time.
Pretend like you're defending your sweater. That's what.
Yes.
That's all you got to do.
Yep.
Well,
the Christmas
I don't
Christmas
even remember
sweaters.
what the sweater looks like.
I don't either now.
I got some new ones. It's extra Christmassy this year at the Biebert house with 2020, and I've got Christmas sweaters for days. So I'm gonna start wearing them, and it's gonna be awesome. And you're gonna love them.
I think you need the one that has Rudolph on the front with the battery pack, and you have to push. His nose lights up, and
Or Mrs. Biebert.
Yeah, I actually have one that's got a Pinocchio nose, and every time it hears someone lying about nicotine, it gets longer and longer. But then I started poking people's eyes, and so I got in trouble for that.
So, yeah. So you made a movie, and I think it's called "You Don't Know Nicotine."
Yeah, it is. Which is an interesting name. Because a lot of people are like, "I'm not seeing that movie. I know nicotine."
Of course they did.
Actually, I felt like I did know a lot about nicotine, and there was some stuff in there that I did not know. And the German,
it's a guarantee your money back if you knew all of it. So I'm glad that you didn't know all of it. Otherwise, we'd have to send your money back.
the German guy had a lot of factoids that I was unaware of.
Yeah, Bernd. Yeah, he's kind of a, how you have your legends here in the U.S. He's one of the legends in Europe. So yeah, he's very very legendary when it comes to getting the truth out about nicotine related things that can help people. So yeah, he's very passionate about it, very educated as well. Yeah, he gives courses at universities about it. So there are other people that do as well.
The part where he was talking about how the scientists in the 1800s, his lab assistants, how they tested out what the fatal dosage of nicotine was, I sort of had to chuckle in my head about that. That like that's the length that they would go to for science, was to dose themselves until they got sick. That was crazy.
Yep. And obviously, they were using way too much, and they didn't die from it. Obviously, it's not recommended to use that much, but yeah, that whole thing with him. Yeah, we'll have to, depending on how many people are interested in the movie, we may release the whole conversation about that, because it was quite a bit longer. But people were kind of like, the focus groups were saying it's a little bit, a little bit much. So yeah, we did cut that down quite a bit, but well, they didn't know nicotine, but they do know what the general public likes, and that's what we were really eager to hear. And
you could just turn it into a mini series. I just recently saw Quentin Tarantino had released the Western Hateful Eight as a 2.5 hour film, and then he released the entire director's cut, which is like 4 hours long on Netflix as a 1 hour doses. You could do something like that. Make like a
but it takes a lot of work. Yeah, it takes a lot of work, and that's part of what why we've been asking people to join that IBEX platform and watch the movie, because we're going to be getting funding from that platform. So literally, I don't know, it's like 90% of all the revenue coming from that related to our film will be going back into other stuff that we do with it. So yeah, we have 400 hours of interviews, and yeah, I would love to put out more stuff. There's quite a bit more to the story, but obviously you can only get so much in 95 minutes. So we had to do a lot of cuts, unfortunately. So you brought up
IBEX. So I think the bit of information that people need to know now about IBEX is the film is now part of the non-premiere now, I guess. And if you sign up for IBEX, you pay your membership, or you sign up for a trial, and
that's
you can
that's
watch
the worst
it.
case scenario. We want everyone to watch it. Some folks, it might not be a good time in history for them to be spending money. Even $5.99 might be a bit much right now, and I understand that. They do have a trial for the platform, so you can watch it and then cancel. Obviously, that does hurt us, the fact. But at the same time, we'd rather have that than people using piracy platforms for it, because at least this way we can measure how much interest there is in the film. I think people forget that, like, every time you share like a Dropbox link or an iCloud link of the movie, all you're doing is robbing us not just of the money, which is one aspect that's very important for future stuff, but it also robs us of the way to show that the film is important, because the media, they like to know numbers, and last time, we had probably 4 million people watch the movie based on some of the metrics we were seeing, but they were probably only 40,000 of them were on a legitimate platform. And so, that data gets kind of confusing to people. And that's why we couldn't get funding for this one, because people didn't believe the audience was there, unfortunately.
Aaron, can you cover, I'm sorry, Patrick, I'm going to cut you off. Can you cover, mute yourself. Can you cover with us briefly why or how a shop could play this in their shop continuously if they choose? You did that with A Billion Lives, I think. I don't recall offhand if you did it with this one yet, and why you shouldn't.
Well, it's not, it's weird because, of course, we're in the age of the internet, and really, you can't really police the internet. So we're just asking people, to support our work. And if you're using it for business purposes, a personal license to watch at home with your family or friends is very different than running it at a shop and using it to attract business. $5.99 a month, definitely, we could do a lot more if people were kind of giving as much as they could to it, as far as that. And a lot of people have, so please don't get me wrong, but like a lot of people are just kind of like, I heard a story of someone who's just rolling it 24 hours a day in their shop, but they didn't even pay anything for it. They just got it sent to them by some YouTuber. So, that stuff's just frustrating because it really goes to the heart of the matter. We put our heart into this, and, when you see people do that kind of stuff, it just kind of just cuts the vibes out sometimes, but then there's folks that are really good and they get you back up on the horse, and, but I think we're going to have one of the things, some healthcare related folks are asking if they could get a license for their entire organization. And I think what we'll probably do is have something where there'll be like a separate, like a professional grade license that might be like $14.99 a month or something. And it would allow for 5 people to have it on their account, and they could just play it kind of like a professional grade version. That way they could show a little bit more support, and it could be kind of legitimate. People are getting public screening licenses too. It's just like kind of the wrong time in history to, to have a ton of big public events, and we don't necessarily want to be a part of people posting pictures like I'm at the big You Don't Know Nicotine event, and there's 400 people without masks on, and then the media is like, oh, look at this crowd. They don't know anything. They certainly don't know nicotine.
Aaron Biebert's
you know,
a super spreader. So,
well, right,
Char
even though we'd have
Owen,
nothing to do with it. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, Char Owen is in the chat room, and she wants to buy 100 copies of the film to give to the Texas representatives. Will that be something available?
Yeah, we owe the backers, we owe them some Blu-rays, and we are going to make those. I think right now we're trying to gauge how much interest there is in the film, and that can be kind of tricky because, you can order too many of these things, and we just don't have we don't really want to be sitting on 3,000 copies of this thing just sitting around, like we can't do it. It's just, financially problematic. So we are trying to gauge interest. We think right now we haven't even really had much, I mean, if you think about the number of people in the world using nicotine, probably 0.00001% of them have even heard of the movie, much less watched it. So we are trying to get a little more, I guess you could say, oh gosh, I don't know if this is like a drinking game trigger, but we're trying to get a little more penetration.
That's good enough.
It is now.
So
penetration is now a word, Kevin. Try to figure out ways to work that into
momentum. Penetration. There we go.
Yeah, ultimately you got, you want to know if it's actually a film that people would want before you start investing in it more, and that's the tricky thing. That's why typically you have film festivals and you have private screenings, and then you do this and you do that. They show it in theaters, and by the end of all that, the people know, okay, this movie has this amount of interest. We should prepare for this. We have no idea. We have no idea if people will buy anything. I mean, essentially right now, every person on the planet could go watch it for free during this trial for IBEX, and you'd be surprised at how few people are actually checking it out. So, I don't know about a big, Blu-ray campaign. I mean, 100 copies would help, but we are working on it. So one way or the other, we're going to have Blu-rays. It's just a little bit tricky to know how many and that kind of stuff. And last time we did pre-orders for 1 Billion Lives, and it takes, a couple months to get that stuff printed and made. And during that time, people were like contacting PayPal about our scam, telling them we scammed, even though we clearly said it was a pre-order. It's just like, we sometimes deal with some interesting characters who, are hurting, and so they kind of hurt people. Hurt people, and so we deal with a lot of hurt people in our work, and so yeah, it can get a little bit crazy. So we're taking this very carefully just to try to make sure we don't overinvest in it. We're hurting as well. I mean, financially, it's hard to make do commercials and things in a time when you can't be with other people, so
yeah,
we're trying to be smart, and so I know people are like, why are you charging for it, jackass, and stuff like that, but I mean, that's just how filmmakers get paid. That's how they make money. That's how they have we have 20 people that worked on this film. They need to be paid, so and we need to keep. And the problem is it takes 2 years to get the next movie out, so in theory, if people don't support your last movie, you have to retire. That's kind of the rule. So we'll see. 2020 is leading to a lot of retirements for a lot of filmmakers, unfortunately.
So I just, recently there's a lot of film news going around, and obviously, but I saw that Zack Snyder, who uses a different social media platform, he did a private screening of one of his films, and he just had like a room full of like conference call people. Like they paid a little bit of money to sit in like a Zoom call with him and watch the movie with him, and got live director commentary. Like he was there talking to them while they did that. There could be some interest in doing something like that, where it would obviously be a secured environment where, you had to have a code to get in.
We certainly can do that. In fact, the IBEX platform actually allows for live screenings with comments and things like that. But we were just getting so much feedback about people who were just kind of like, get it out. We're tired of hearing about it. So, I mean, we did postpone some of that stuff. It's still possible though, if people had interest. But
yeah. No, I mean, I would be really interested, because while you're watching the film, you're probably going to get some insight about what you were doing or what was going on at that time. And it might be interesting for other people. I mean, I like watch a lot of documentary films anyway. So, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to films and movies and, that kind of thing. But I'm sure there might be other people interested in paying like $10 to go sit in a Zoom room and watch a
maybe
film.
We'll do that. Maybe we'll have something like that. Yeah, I think maybe that'll be after Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, because right now it's just like, you'd be surprised at how few people are even opening their emails. Like it's just a struggle right now. People are just not paying attention.
There's email. There's a thing called email.
Well, you'd be surprised how many messages I personally got from people being like, "Where's my code?" And it's like, 1 month ago I sent you an email and you literally never opened it. And then you opened it and I said, it's this weekend only. And then they were like, people just get so angry when they just, like they somehow think like I'm the McDonald's clerk and like their burger's not perfect. Like we're pretty, a month notice,
I actually was one of those people that opened it late, but I opened it still in time. I didn't have any problems. I opened it on the last day. I knew what it was. So I was like, well,
that's different. Yeah. There's people they're angry. Like somehow we only gave them a month notice, so I don't know.
Only a month notice.
Yeah. And it's like, unfortunately, the amount of stress this year and the amount of different things that I do, like, I wish people could literally just.
So wait, you released the movie?
Try to pay attention. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting people today being like, "Oh yeah, when's the movie coming out? I've been waiting." Like it's like, "Oh, you've been waiting real hard. All you had to go anywhere on social media, anywhere, like
on your site,
sure.
on your Twitter."
My Twitter. They didn't check my Twitter because I tweeted it.
I don't know.
They didn't check his Twitter.
I gotta stop whining. There's been tons of awesome things, comments. People are talking about life-changing experiences that they finally understand what they're doing. Like with their life, people have twisted what's happened and made it into a narrative that makes people ashamed and feeling terrible about themselves. And that is the biggest thing that I was hoping for people to understand from this film is like, you're doing something that makes sense. Like, do not beat yourself up over it. Do not let anybody talk down to you. And a lot of people who've made very smart choices about the way they use nicotine are still being shamed for it. And they're being quiet because they're ashamed of it. And I think it's time to not be ashamed of it. I think it's time to understand it and then move forward with a strong voice, and that's what I'm hoping people will do, have a strong voice.
Well, I did like the fact that, obviously the film is a warts and all sort of display of nicotine. And I mean, we just realized that there was not as many warts.
I was hoping for. I mean, you saw what I asked Dr. Glantz. I said, what's the biggest danger of nicotine? You would assume that we would get the biggest, most terrible thing. You're going to get a heart attack within 3 years or something like that. But he just said addiction, that's an interesting thing.
No. You forgot that he said that it's anti-Viagra.
He has to give away the extra parts. We can't do that.
Oh.
Well, if people want to see him air fingering himself, they should watch the movie. But
we're gonna put that in our own intro.
Oh shoot! I shouldn't be saying this. I forget. Are we live? Or is anybody watching this right now?
Yes.
There's like 10 people. It's okay.
Good. So it's probably okay. I can say whatever I want. You guys are the ones that got me started on the whiskey here. So.
I'm happy. I like sound bites, my friend.
Oh boy, drink.
You saw. I put Eliana
Okay.
from last week on the intro. So next week you might be on the intro.
You might.
Please don't do that clip.
Not that one.
Yeah, well, Bruni, I see in the chat here, and I don't normally browse the chats because they typically are full of interestingness. That can be distracting at times, but Bruni was asking if
I blew past that one because I think you already made an A-grade movie.
Well, I that's right, and I like him a lot, so I am definitely not going to be like too harsh. But that is funny. That's a funny question to say an A-grade movie because I didn't know what grade would you give the You Don't Know Nicotine. I felt like it was a pretty high grade, but I don't know. I think I know what he means though. He's talking about like with A-listers and stuff, and
I assumed, but you know, I don't think Johnny Depp is going to do a documentary though. He might.
Celebs do a lot of documentaries because you know, they got pet projects and things that they really love, and they do.
If you do an environmental one, I'm sure he'll, because he does a lot of environmental, you know, stuff.
Yeah,
Or what's the other one? Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, he does a lot with you know, climate related things.
Yeah.
Well, we Frederick is and Sydney are working on a documentary about dyslexia, and they will possibly have A-listers in that one. So yeah, that's a topic that, I mean, you know, I say that because that's a topic that affects a lot of people in the film community, and you know, because it's a brain difference, you see the world differently. Everyone thinks it means the letters are backwards, but it actually does not mean that. It just means you see everything in 3D space, or whatever. I guess I don't technically know because I don't have that. But so a lot of celebrities are interested in talking about that. But it's funny if you looked at how many celebrities use nicotine, but they are afraid of that one. That topic
Well,
is
their agents,
taboo.
Their agents are because primarily
the publicists don't like it. Yeah.
I've actually ran into this. You know, back in the vaping militia days, we actually reached out to quite a few A-list people, and we got to the management or the publicist stage, and due to the fact that a lot of the people that are anti-vaping happen to also be pro whatever it is the politician, the A-list star, supports, you know, obviously we're looking, I mean, and this is not a black and white Republican Democrat thing, but it on its face value, it is. And a lot of the people that would be going against a lot of the same people that are allies in other areas, and they don't want to stir the pot. They don't want to cause trouble. They want to keep support for their Green New Deal or whatever. So they're not going to come out publicly about this. And, you know, obviously if this Republican is pro this bill, they're not going to do any photo ops with that guy because he's anti-gay or anti-whatever that they support. So, yeah, it's not politically convenient for any A-list stars to do this, except for like the few outspoken right-wing stars, but none of them that I know of are actually vapors.
Yeah, it's just tricky in a lot of ways, but we're going to keep working on this. I've told people before, this is really a snowball, you know, effect that we have to have, and we just got to keep rolling the snowball and it'll get bigger. I firmly believe that. The question is how long will it take to get big, you know, where it can roll over an entire village, perhaps even. Not that I'm saying we should do that, but you know, that's up to you know, the general public to decide how far do they want this to go, how fast, because a lot of people have told me that when they watched it, and a lot of people who don't use nicotine did watch this film. We've been hearing from folks, a lot of teachers, a lot of these people have reached out. I got a text message from a principal the other day telling me like he's totally understanding now what's going on in his school. And while that doesn't mean he's just going to allow people just to do whatever, he's going to take a better approach when he sees that. It's going to be more of a consultation. Like, so what's going on? You know, like, what can we do to help? Like, here's why, you know, here, I mean, there is some downsides of teens using nicotine. Probably primarily is the financial side of it. It's probably the main one because you will probably end up using it, but there might be a good reason for it. So like, you know, people do pay to have coffee every day as well. That's a choice that teenagers make for the rest of their life as well. That's pretty much a fact. People don't think of it that way, but same with alcoholism. It's something like 80% of people that are facing alcoholism started when they were teens. There is something about the brain in the teenage years. As much as I've heard a lot of people make jokes about that, like it's some sort of pseudoscience, it is true. Teen brains are literally forming for adult life. They're being wired up for the environment that they're going to be in. And so whatever stimuli that they have, they form that in, and that becomes your adult brain. And so if it has chemicals in it, those chemicals are going to be part of that. Doesn't mean it can't be broken. Doesn't mean it can't, you know, change, but it's very hard. And that's what some people call addiction. But I think the addiction word really depends on what kind of harm is being done. And so, like coffee, people joke, coffee addiction, but they're joking, but coffee addiction and nicotine addiction would be the same thing. So if you're using the A word for coffee, you can use it for nicotine. But heroin A word and nicotine A word, they don't belong in the same sentence because it's not even close.
A couple weeks ago, we had, Chauncey or Charles Gardner on the show. And that day that he was on the show, there was an exchange on Twitter, and some asshat scientist had referred to the fact that there's the claim that nicotine addiction is as strong or worse than heroin addiction, and an actual heroin addict in recovery replied and said, I'm in recovery. I can guarantee you that quitting smoking was nowhere near as hard or difficult or painful as quitting heroin.
Yeah. Well, you know what the hardest addiction in the world to get rid of is? Do you guys know?
Buying
water.
Or breathing. Oxygen.
I mean, well, yeah, because those are things that people depend on, and you know what? They've been using it as children, and now they can't give it up. I mean, you can start throwing the A word around, addiction. You could throw that around like crazy on just about anything, and you can use it. My son one time shamed my wife over it. Like, Dad, Mom's addicted to coffee. Like, she always wants it. Like, you can do that, but it's extremely rude to do it, and it's not really based in sort of science or just good civility. So I think people need to really be careful how they talk about that word addiction. As we said it in the movie, it's serious. It's a serious word. It needs to be taken seriously. Yeah.
We've talked about it here on the show. We use that word as an insult. You're an addict.
Yeah, of course.
And
it's literally a way to shame people into being what you want them to be. Yeah.
And we don't want you to be part of our society. We want to shame you and make you go hide in the dark, in the corner over there. You heroin addicts are over there. Hey, you cigarette smokers, go over there too. We don't want you around us. You vapors, that looks a lot like smoking. So go over there too, because obviously it's the same thing. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
It seems that humans in general are really good at identifying things to separate them so they feel better about themselves. And really that's what we see here in this case is that people are using that word. Even if someone was addicted to heroin, I don't know if people actually know this, and by no means am I pro heroin, but you don't usually die from heroin. It's usually you die from heroin overdose. That means you made a mistake, you overdid it. So then, that harm reduction advocates in other places of the world are actually giving people rooms with people to help them inject heroin, and everyone of course is freaking out.
Safe injection sites have reduced heroin overdose.
Yeah, they reduce death. I don't have time to go out and try to advocate for clean heroin rooms and stuff. But the fact is that things don't have to kill you, but when you isolate people, shame them even more, send them off into the corner and treat them badly, then usually they do start to do even more destructive things. And that's partly where this whole idea of harm reduction is a way of deeply fixing the problem. It's called get rid of the danger first and then talk to people about what's going on and try to help them. And in tobacco harm reduction, specifically around cigarettes, thankfully cigarettes is not quite that serious of a thing where, it's like in the next 2 years, you'll probably die from it. It's not quite like that, but, you could take a lot of those principles and apply them. Stop being a douchebag. That's the first step. And is that a drinking word? I don't know.
It may as well be.
It is now.
Right.
It is
All
now.
right.
I like the quote. Stop being a
Be a good human. Just be a good human.
I mean, I don't know. It's tricky because, for 2 years, we've been making this thing, and we've been, for 5 years, I've been researching it really, but for 2 years, we've been really at this. And, we really wanted to step back. As I said in the email I recently sent out, at some point we just kind of realized, I don't know if we 100% know what's going on with nicotine. I didn't feel bad specifically because I don't think we had much, if anything, to do with it. But after 1 Billion Lives, all of a sudden teens started using it like trying it. I don't know about using. That's an interesting word when someone's only used it like one time in their life and you call them a user. But, you know, people started experimenting with it a lot after that. And that was a whole new issue. And A Billion Lives actually said there's not much of that, because at that time that was what was true. But, you know, like, well, what does that mean if people, you know, as I've heard other people say, you know, virgin lungs and virgin brains and all this kind of stuff, you know, shouldn't be using any chemicals, which is obviously fascinating because the kids are literally going down to the Starbucks with sugar, like packed lattes, and
80,000 flavors.
Yeah, and well, no doubt unicorn poop or whatever that Starbucks had, you know, but yeah, I don't know. We just realized we didn't know what the danger would be if somebody was starting to use nicotine for the first time, not in a cigarette. What would that do? And that's what we were really like, you know, and I've got kids that are teenagers now. One of them's a teenager, the other one's about to be. My kids are literally going to have to do this, you know, and did I just tell them that it was safe? You know, like, what does that mean? Like, what about my own, you know? No, I did not. Yeah, I did not. I was very careful not to. Yeah, although, you know, after researching it, you know, I wonder if the S word should be used, you know, like it's, you know, we don't say caffeine is dangerous, do we? That's poisonous. But we don't say it's dangerous because no real circumstance where there's that kind of concentration is ever really accessed, except in cases where we have black markets. Could you imagine if there's a black market on caffeine? People would have bottles of that and they'd accidentally drink a bunch of Jack Daniels and then go and accidentally drink the caffeine and die. Yeah. You know, then we would say caffeine is dangerous but it would be the black market that caused it. And I think the same thing could be said for nicotine. It seems like in the concentrations that we see, this is like not a thing, you know. So, I don't know.
I'm gonna back up for you, and
I
have just a thought in my head. You don't even have to respond, but when you're telling children don't do something, and then you're telling them it's dangerous, and then they do it, and then you shame them and the adults. Now they've gone further away from you, and they're not going to listen either. You don't even have to respond to that. But that was a thought when you said that earlier about the kids and trying it or whatever, and then the shame involved.
Yeah, well, we shamed them. You know, I mean, I have interesting conversations with my kids all the time because, you know, I've done a lot of research about the brain, about you know, scientific like food and essentially chemicals that the body uses, and I mean, a little bit out. There you go. Is that a drinking sign? Do I have to? No. Okay.
Data science research.
That's data science research.
I didn't know if that was like you got to drink every time someone mentions research, because my research will start getting real sloppy here if I drink. I saw someone was saying I hope I have another bottle. You know, I have this one and it says Wisconsin weed on it, and my glass says Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So yeah, I'm repping the home region here, but yeah. So as far as that, like having conversations with kids, you know, because that's a real thing. The movie didn't go into that as much as some people had hoped, and some people had hoped not. Regardless, it was worth chasing. I think we probably had to cut 30 interviews from the movie when we decided that wasn't really going to be a topic that we needed to dive into anymore. You know, we took a pretty big turn for a different understanding of it. You know, when we started going to some of the scientists, it became quickly evident why the young folks were using it, and having a whole movie about something that's, you know, you can, you know, I don't know. We just decided to shelve that for now. Yeah, we have an entire interview called the Peace Summit. That's what we call it, where we actually brought two people together to have a conversation about this at the kitchen table. Mm-hmm. These are some people that you may know. That got cut. We had another mom story that got cut, which would have been extremely fascinating, but some people were telling me to be nice. So, you know, there's a lot more out there. So I don't know what we're going to do with it. You know, it's a very intensive. I mean, for those of you who get into video production, you can understand what it's like when you're trying to deal with high level B-roll music, storytelling, editing, moving that stuff around. You know, it becomes kind of a big hassle, especially when you're dealing with multiple angles of 4K 10-bit raw footage, and everyone just thinks like we just made this video on our phone.
No, but I do have to ask, who was the cinematographer and who was the editor?
Well, we had 5 or 6 people credited in the film for camera operating, but Jimmy Jake Shaw was the cinematographer, so the lead guy, and so yeah.
So I have to ask: Does Jimmy have a butt fetish? Because there's a lot of transition scenes.
Good night,
and a lot
folks.
of segue scenes of people's butts walking away. And I there's a couple of your butt walking away, and I'm just wondering.
I mean, how did it look? I guess that's the question here. I mean,
Well,
what
it
if
depends
it's
on what pants you were wearing, but
Do you want us to do real data, or do you want us to give you junk science?
and I mean, obviously, if Jimmy's running the camera, who was the one that spliced it all? Who was the editor that left it in?
So okay, well here's where the rubber hits the road. So Jenny is the editor. So Jimmy probably accidentally shot my butt, and then Jenny liked it and she put it in the film. I'm pretty sure that's the answer right there.
But there is a long walking scene. There's a long walk away scene of Stan walking away, and that stayed in too.
That's
so
good. I like that one.
I would say, and I don't think that was, so here's where I'm going to push back a little bit. I don't think that was a butt scene. I don't think that was a Dr. Glantz butt scene. And Jenny is, oh gosh. Jenny is watching right now?
Now we've got insight, and I still stand with Jenny. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so, but yeah, those weren't butt scenes. I mean, when someone's walking away, I would say that was something that I probably was interested in having in there, because there is something about following someone who's walking away from you. There is something about that. So, I
thought they made the statement, and now they're done.
Well,
and now we're moving on.
Well,
I can understand
going somewhere,
that I'm okay with Stan walking away, because symbolically in my head that could mean that he's walking away and we won't ever see him again. But I know for a fact that that's not going to happen.
Well,
even
I think
today,
he did. I don't know if you saw, but he is pretty much retired now. So I mean, he is still tweeting, I believe. But
his statement was that he was still going to be doing whatever it is. I just have the fear that he's going to fucking go on like a worldwide tour, because just last October he was in New Zealand doing interviews and pushing back against the New Zealand more lenient approach to vaping than what had historically been true for that country. And I also believe that while he was there, he also went to Australia, because a lot of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is now suddenly coming out of politicians in Australia's mouth.
Well, they love Dr. Glantz down there. I think he may be Australian, actually.
Glantz is also a drinking word, folks.
I would love to blame him on somebody else. I would.
Let's stick Paul on him.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of active Aussie advocates.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean it, not them, but I mean, there's obviously some craziness. Australia has got to be one of the craziest places, besides maybe Singapore, where they chop your hand off if you use nicotine product that isn't cigarettes. You can smoke, I think, but I don't know. Yeah,
not in public. Not in public in Singapore.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's somewhere like Bhutan or whatever it's called. It's like a 10-year jail sentence or something. It's like, what?
Well, Malaysia and Indonesia both had very strict rules and had arrested people for vaping. And then obviously the Filipino president, he's also a little bit whacked in the head, had ordered the police to arrest people that were vaping in public. But the government, the legislature, they pulled back on that. And obviously now they're investigating the Philippine FDA for corruption and accepting Bloomberg money. So, my wife is Filipino, so I always keep an eye on that country. And
it's an important country. People should pay attention to it. I think people sometimes think some of these other countries aren't that big, but here's your fact, and I don't know if this will be a drinking thing or not, but Philippines used to be part of the U.S. I don't know if you guys knew that. I know you probably. Maybe you did, but
It wasn't.
that
it
used
was
to be part
never
of the U.S.
technically. It was never part of the U.S. It was. We had a big, huge, the largest military base in the world there, and they were never officially a territory of the United States, though.
Jenny's a fact checker, and if she's watching right now, she's gonna Google it and tell us if the Philippines was ever part of the U.S. And
now Guam, on the other hand, is a territory of the United States.
Where's that?
The Philippines, Guam.
Oh, Guam. Yeah, we have a big air base there. But the Philippines, we won it in the Spanish American War. Believe it or not. No,
but it was never a state, and it was never a territory.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. We'll have to look. Jenny will fact check it. I don't know.
We may have won it, but we gave them their freedom immediately or something.
I'm going to make a movie called You Don't Know Philippines.
In exchange for Clark. Hey, let's do it. I have an apartment in the Philippines that you can use.
Okay, I know. Hey, is it possible they just kind of blacked that part out of the history books because they were kind of upset because World War II, we didn't go over there and help them. And they said you'd rather help your cousins than your own daughter or whatever they said. They were kind of mad over there, and I think that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Did Jenny,
what was I going to say? I have a number of World War II veteran patients, and one of my patients was in the Philippines when the Japanese invaded and was a Japanese POW, and they took them from the Philippines. They stripped them down to their boxers and T-shirts and put them on a plane, and they landed in Tokyo, and it was like 10 below zero. And didn't give them clothes for days, and they nice. Had frostbite and blah blah blah. It was pretty awful. So anyway, yeah.
Am I supposed to, is there a way for me to comment in the chat? Is there a way for that?
Well, you'd have to open another window and go to Facebook and do it in Facebook.
Okay. Oh no worries, no worries.
That's why I look like I'm not doing anything and playing with my buttons over here.
Yeah. So
anyway,
we'll double check.
It was in 1898. No, I was going to post the link. I was going to be the ultimate smart aleck, but
I'll post it.
That's what I wanted. That's the only reason I wanted to comment. Because I obviously am on camera, so I could comment if I wanted, but I thought it'd be gentler if I dropped the news via chat.
Oh no, we can say he's wrong.
In 1907, the Philippines convened its first elected assembly, so they may have been something for that time. Yeah. And then obviously they were granted their independence in 1939, before World War II.
Where did they get their independence from?
From Spain, because they were a Chinese colony, and then Spain took over, and they were a Spanish colony, and then obviously. From 18 whatever until 1935, they might have been ours.
Well, and technically, nicotine vapor products might be safer than smoking.
No. We have that is settled science, my friend.
Wait.
I know. I mean, I'm being a smart aleck here because. See, that's what happens when you start having drinking games. You get the Filipino trivia. Like we should play Trivial Pursuit Filipino edition.
If we're gonna do Filipino trivia, we have to have San Miguel beer or Ginebra gin to drink, because that's their stuff. But they were bragging that their beer was 8% alcohol by volume, and I was like, that's not enough.
Yeah, that's not bad.
They're much smaller than we are.
Well, they are.
Well, I don't know. That's a
your Filipino side
type. Maybe just I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen them in like the Olympics, and they look pretty big. But that might just be the athletes. But
yeah. While we're on Filipino trivia, it is very the number one sport in the Philippines is basketball. But when they developed the team, they realized that the league, I should say, that none of them were tall enough to dunk. So each team, and these are all corporate teams. So Burger King has a team, Pizza Hut has a team, Budweiser has a team, San Miguel
all the healthy active brands have teams. Yeah.
So they are contractually, it's written into the bylaws, they are allowed to import one player from outside of the country so that they can each have at least one player that can dunk.
Wow.
That's okay. So that one, all right. So you've given good trivia, and I gave a little bit of history trivia. So I think we can call Philippines a tie. Philippine trivia is now a draw, and we are moving on to the next round.
Okay, so back to the film.
Yes.
Back to the film. So there's this really cool part in the film with Dr. Paul Newhouse, and he's talking about the upside down bell curve, about how people that's brains are already functioning at this level may not benefit from nicotine, whereas people who are functioning at the lower end of the bell curve do actually mentally benefit from nicotine.
Yeah.
That was something that I mean, obviously we see vapors all the time self titrate to a level that they want or that they are comfortable with or whatever. Kevin and I both vape at 12 and 18 milligram nicotine because that's what we're happy with. And there are quite a lot of people that look at us like we are aliens because we vape 12 and 18 free-base nicotine. But these are the same people that go out and buy 50 or 60 milligram salt nicks, which I think is hilarious. But obviously, it's not everything is not equal. Everything is not equal. We act like a lot of times that everything is equal and that nicotine benefits everyone, but it doesn't.
No, that's not true at all. Right. Yeah. It's, and I think, I don't know if this didn't quite make it into the film, and I don't know if it's because there just wasn't quite the right place to put it, but Jenny always is eager to remind me of how important this is to put out in a future bonus content or something. But apparently there's, I think it's 13 different genetic code receptor, 4 different receptors. So 13 different receptors your brain can have for nicotine, and each human being only has about 6 or 7 of them. And so different things, nicotine does about 1,500 different experiences with nicotine. So anybody who's using nicotine is kind of not being real helpful when they tell everyone in the world what nicotine does for them and how it can work for them. It's not even barely possible for someone to explain the experience to anyone else because it doesn't work the same on other people. And, so plenty of people do not have the receptors that would increase focus or would reduce this or would do that. They just don't have it, but they might have the one where it protects the brain or, does some of those kind of things you see with like Parkinson's or, and some people probably have like the 6 or 7 best ones where they get more focus, more energy, more calmness, and those people, nicotine is like a major game changer, as Aaron Mills said, like it's just a big game changer and they never want to quit that because they just feel so good when they do it. And it just, their brain, they're on fire, they're doing good work, it's not hurting their body, and they're just like, oh, wow, this is unbelievable. And so, but if they told everyone in the world that that's what nicotine is, that wouldn't be honest, because there's plenty of people, like if you think back to the 50s, when everyone found out that smoking was bad, or at least it was talked about in the media and there was big hoopla about this. Just think how many people just quit that day.
Right.
There was so many of them, millions and millions of people, like that Surgeon General report, probably the next day, 20 million people just quit. They were smoking cigarettes because it was a social thing to do. And all of a sudden it wasn't social anymore. So they took away that, which was good. I think, maybe not being douchebags to people or shaming them, but if you just inform people and they decide to stop, that's a good thing, I think. But then after that, you still had the people that liked nicotine, that their brain was using nicotine and different levels over the years. As they've clamped down, they've made the scales, you know, essentially like benefits and cost. They've just made the cost so darn thing where the benefits no longer heavy enough, and then people quit. But at some point, there is no cost that is too much for somebody who's really using nicotine for their brain. There's no cost that's too great. And I've talked to moms who said, I feed my kids, but I don't even hardly eat some days because I'm saving the money for the cigarettes. They live in other countries, specifically down under, where they're like $30 a pack or something like that. You know, and then, but it's illegal to have a clean nicotine product there. Like, give me a break. Get out of my face. It's not scientific. It's not, you know.
Not only is the deadly product available on every corner of the country, but to get the safer product that has never, ever harmed anybody in the 10 years that it's been on the market, not one person has died from using the product appropriately, that you actually have to go to one of the 8 doctors in the country that is willing to write you a prescription to get the safer product. I mean, that is horribly, that just makes me,
you know, and what has that done? Did everybody quit? I see Amish was saying they're 50 a pack. Did that make people quit? No, it didn't. You know, and so why is it? I'm just wondering, like, and I know this might not be popular in this group. Maybe it is, probably not. Come on. I don't think most political folks are literally like evil. I don't think so. You know, I've gotten to know a lot of people over the years. I think there are some bad apples for sure. And as we know, bad apples can make the whole bunch rotten, and sometimes whole bunches get rotten for sure, guaranteed. But most people don't run for office because they just want the money or they just want to be cool and famous. A lot of them do want to make positive impact. But when I see stuff like this, where it's like, why aren't other people asking questions like, well, okay, it hasn't worked. We're jacking up the taxes 12% every year. We are way past that at this point. You know, I know some people early on were critical of me, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, because I talked about how the taxes might have been a bit high, you know, for people. If you look at folks that are using nicotine, a lot of them fall into some of the lower income brackets. And you're taking a significant, I mean, this is a regressive tax where the poorer people are paying more percentage of their income than even the wealthiest people, and especially in like Australia, for instance. I could be wrong. Maybe they have one bracket that's really high, but they're paying more taxes per percentage wise than most of the people in their country. And yet they think of themselves often as very thoughtful, liberal people with all of these hope we're going to make a utopia essentially, but you're literally ruining lives over this. And it's like, it's not working. So when are we going to say, what is it about this that you want so bad that you won't eat? Is it because it's just addictive, or is there something else there? I'm shocked why other people aren't asking the question. Why aren't the journalists asking the question? I watched a hearing down there not too long ago where one of the political leaders did ask the questions, and the answers were kind of like, they're getting better, I would say, better answers than 5 years ago. But like, what? How long is it going to take for people to say, this isn't working, and let's come up with a better plan? But nicotine is the answer to that. The reason why they won't accept it is because nicotine. So for everybody who's like, why are you making a movie about nicotine, bro? Because literally that's the barrier. If everybody understood nicotine, I guarantee you these discussions about all these other things would not be happening. Right. Just like there's not discussions about overregulating caffeine or coffee or no flavored creamers, because that gets kids addicted. Why? Because they understand caffeine enough. But in this particular case, they do not understand it. And that is why this is so important, because it's standing in the way of that original billion people that we talked about in the last movie. It's literally standing in their way to have a better life.
Is it because money trumps courage? Maybe is that a?
No, I used to think that. I think I think A Billion Lives. I look at that film and I'm embarrassed of it. I got to be honest.
You?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed of it. We just missed the point. These are really core, deep issues, like psychology issues. When people think they know something, but they're in power, it is always best to maintain the status quo. And people will generally defend the status quo even when it's wrong. They use all kinds of mental mechanisms to do it. It's not even intentional half the time. There are some people who know it's wrong, and for those of you guys who are subscribed to IBAX, go look at the new bonus content, the Dr. David Abrams interview, the extended cut of his essentially his transition. He said, I was leading the Truth Initiative, like the science wing of the Truth Initiative, and we knew that these were safer. He literally said that. We knew. Now, keep in mind, what is he saying here? He's saying the Truth Initiative knows. And this was 6 years ago?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, it was, they knew then. They knew what the science showed.
It's on their site, Aaron. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But then you see,
you can't find it,
so
but it's there.
So it's like the scientific evidence, which is what all of these people are always yelling about, like science and science and science, and avoid the, it's just such a weird, twisted world that we live in with this topic. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, this is the most convoluted topic ever. It's messed up beyond belief, but a lot of it, like we said, pride, money. So there is a money thing, but it's not, the money isn't causing people to be bad because people don't want to feel evil. Okay. Nobody wants to feel evil. But what does money do? It enables people who are already doing something wrong for other reasons. So if you think about it, useful, I don't want to say the word idiot because that's mean, but useful idiots, if you give them money, they'll keep being very useful, So that's part of the problem. Yeah.
One of the things that I've sort of said over the years is that these public health groups, that their whole mission statement is to destroy smoking. American Lung, that's their number one, that's their windmill that they're tilting at, the truth. And if you look, we actually did an image search and we did some research. Truth has not come out with an anti-smoking piece, as a primary motivator or a primary news piece or a video presentation or anything in the last 4 years. Every major media blitz that they've done, every PR piece that they've put out, every video that they've put out recently has been about flavored tobacco products and vaping.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just it's really offensive and it's really a human rights violation. We're literally lying to the mass public, and they can't honestly make good choices because of that. The reality is, cigarettes. I'm sorry for all the big tobacco companies that still like to sell cigarettes, but those are obsolete. The problem is people don't know it, so they keep buying the old product. There is no reason to use nicotine in a cigarette form any longer. They have strong enough ways to take it. They have obviously healthier ways, and they're also less expensive. There is no reason why the massive amounts of people, literally 1 billion people, would not switch to safer products if they understood. It is the misinformation that is causing the people to keep using an outdated product that is killing a reasonable amount of them through the death and disease caused by it. Of course, that number is disputed and all that, and I don't want to get into the stats, but no one can tell me that cigarettes don't cause harm. And nobody can tell me,
Yeah, no, I agree. There's going to be people that smoke forever. The smoke phrase is silly, but
I smoke cigars every once in a while. I'm never going to stop doing that in theory. And no one should. In 500 years, they'll still smoke cigars because there's a cultural aspect to it. And it's okay because cigars don't cause lung cancer because you can't smoke them enough. They're too darn expensive and hard to deal with. Some people do, and yes, it's possible they will. That is so low of a percentage. So they will. And maybe there'll be those hipster people in 200 years who are lighting tobacco on fire in a little thin thing.
But it's going to be minuscule. And I've been saying 5% for a while if public health would just leave people alone. They're going to learn, they're going to know, and they're probably most of them will go, "Oh, this is pretty good." Not everybody will. So I'm at the 5% someday. That's not my goal. That's just what I'm thinking because it is obsolete. It's becoming obsolete slowly because they are fighting for it instead of against it.
Well, and that's the reality. Is it's not only is the information being withheld, okay, which is where this really becomes an issue because you're withholding vital information for families and individuals to make healthcare decisions for themselves. Which way do they take nicotine? Yep. They're withholding the information, but it's not just that. That would be bad enough on its own. But then they are taking the alternatives there that for the people who do find out, and they're trying to take those away. So that's where it gets to be a whole nother level. And I mean, I don't know. At some point, I really do believe, like in the U.S., that they need to be having congressional hearings about this, like maybe a FBI investigation into this, because there is a lot of really bad stuff going on, and there are people that know. So for those of you who think I don't think some people are purposefully doing it, some people are purposefully doing it because it is their job to kind of understand the truth about it, and they're purposefully having to make decisions based on fundraising, based on relationships, and they're lying to themselves, some of them, but some of them are not even lying to themselves. They're literally just choosing it. And I don't know who all those people are. I'm not going to go there, but yeah, I don't know.
They are.
So they're back to Stan. Back to Stan. So you do ask, is there anything beneficial about nicotine?
No. Yeah,
I mean, that's in the trailer. I'm not giving anything away.
Well, yeah, I know. You're not giving it away. I mean, he literally said no to that question, and it's like, without hesitation, like, where's the humility? Most scientists I know, by the way, are very humble because they know that it only takes one more study to show something else that they missed, and they look like idiots.
Or me finding it and tweeting it. Right. Yes.
Well, right. Yeah, you got to watch out for Kevin. That's I know when we first started making A Billion Lies, like, I was pretty intimidated by the posse. Like, there are some serious fact checkers out there, and I think that's a great thing. And obviously I take my beatings when I'm wrong, and I come out usually a little bit more correct, but yeah, some people don't do that.
If you're going to come out against vaping it, you better come correct.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
I've been wrong before.
Well, sure. We've all been wrong for sure. And that's the key thing, is that everyone should have a sense of humility about what they think they know, right. And most people do not, unfortunately. Yeah.
And I've sadly learned more from other people, mostly on Twitter. Alan's, I think, still in the room, Alan Beard and others. Bruni's an amazing source.
Some very wise people that I've run
insane.
into.
Yeah,
yep.
It's insane what we know collectively as really a small group of Twitterers. And there is a core group of people all around the freaking world that go, wait a minute, I've got this here. Or, wait a minute, you're wrong. It's either way, it doesn't matter. As long as we know what's correct, that's the humility part to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with, obviously, I think that what I've seen on Twitter is there is a group of people who are fact checking and they are pushing back. It's just my hope at some point that we could, like I've seen this sort of thing being tried for a long time, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like a different approach must be needed to, like, how do we get the general public to understand some of this kind of stuff? And I think that's partly where we need to start thinking about, what is this?
And that's
this is to hear church.
Example.
This is one of the Glantz acolytes. So yesterday he tweeted, another nail in the coffin for e-cig harm reduction theorists when 1 in 5 kids in the U.S. Trying this addictive product, and no, they would not have become smokers, but now likely to become dual users.
Drop down.
That looks like there's a lot of ways to manipulate data on graphs, and that to me looks like not an actual graph. That looks like
a 9-year-old did it.
Well, no, just
or like an 100-year-old dude. So This is he's actually quoting Glantz.
Now drop down. Just drop down to the next 3 tweets. Oh no, I don't want to look at your dumbass. Keep going. Hamish is on there.
I actually like my tweet. My tweet. No matter how often you quote the serial sexual harasser / study retractor, you won't garner Professor Glantz's attention. He only has eyes for his female students and their research, which he steals and puts his name on.
I thought a friend of ours would be on there, Mr. Gardner, Dr. Gardner. I wasn't sure.
Look, I mean, I just continue to be totally befuddled.
Yeah, and I've begged people to not weaponize our film at this point. But
there we go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, more evidence. This is from Charles. More evidence e-cigs expand nicotine addiction is like saying there's more evidence of the magnificence of the emperor's new clothes. U.S. teen smoking has declined 4 times faster than historic trends over the last 8 years. Teen vaping just dropped 29%.
And then he links himself, right? That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So I mean, we do have a quite healthy group of Twitter fact checkers. I mean, I hate to use the word fact checker because that is, also been used as some sort of a weapon in the media recently. But yeah, I mean, that's our duty, is to bring the truth to these assholes. So, I mean, obviously I'm the snarky guy. I'm gonna smack the guy back because, I mean, Stan cannot be a legitimate source. He's never, as far as I'm concerned, been a legitimate source. I love the fact that he goes around telling everyone that he's a rocket scientist. And my response is, you're a rocket scientist, and you're the reason we don't go to the moon anymore.
That's right. Hi, Jennifer.
If you're a rocket scientist, yeah, I mean, he is the biggest science denier on the planet, because what he does is publish bullshit and claims that it's science and distracts from real science.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
I mean, you did get him in the film. So
yeah, and I respect that he was willing to be in the film. I guess for me, the biggest thing that I think is lost in all this stuff is that, the weirdest thing is the general public is not reading these tweets from anybody, and they're not reading any of that stuff. The general public is just off doing their own thing, and all they get is like essentially the media. And I've actually had success when I point out things gently and respectfully to the media. They do offer me times to come back on. Like one time in a thing about this movie, they did not do this right. And I said, well, congratulations, but I think somebody is probably going to die because of this, if I had to guess. And they let me have a full hour on their Facebook channel live with 250,000 people. So, like that stuff does work if done right. I don't think, as you see Skip here trying to carry on the banner of what I've begged everybody, is like weaponizing this film literally is going to make it a big problem, because the general public who does need to understand nicotine, they're watching all this stuff and they're saying this is a lot of juvenile stuff. Like we got one dude doing this, and then we got other people calling him this, and like the whole thing with Aaron Mills when they were saying like his wife or her husband is banging the secretary and go take some drugs, and like just this kind of stuff is so immature, because how could you trust somebody who says that kind of stuff? Either way, how can you trust in theory? I know I'm talking partly about you guys sometimes, but like, how will the general public choose people to make health decisions if it's in such a snarky way? Like if it is truly life or death, like it should be more respectful. That would be what I've been begging people, because it's clearly not been working over the last however many years, because the general public says, oh, those vapors, they're just kind of a-holes. They vape in the theaters, and they vape in my face, and they're just crazy mob of vapors on Twitter. And like, I mean, like I've actually had conversations where people don't understand my history in this, and they tell me, they confide in me, and they genuinely are like afraid, like, but actually, because it's put in such a way that doesn't seem very professional or convincing in some cases, they feel like it's their duty to keep putting it out. They think they're right. That's why you're fighting them. Like, as weird as that sounds, like, it's weird. I'm just saying, like, what a weird world that we're in right now. Like, because fighting people, that actually makes them feel validated. Like, I must be helping the world because these crazy people are fighting me, I don't know, just a thought, and I apologize.
No,
I realize that I'm partly talking about
one of the things that I've suggested here in the last couple of weeks, actually, was that we need to weaponize the scientists. That's who we need to have going to hearings and bringing to Congress. We need to get, Colin and Alex Wodek and Clive Bates and Dr. Farsalinos. We need to write a check big enough to get them to fly over and to stand in front of Congress and, talk about this. We need to get Paul Newhouse to come and talk about nicotine and with his credentials and say, look, this is what the science says. Like he said in the film, somebody pushed back at one of his things where he was talking about nicotine, and he's like, look, this is the science. I'm just showing you the science.
We got a whole movie about it right now, and I don't see that many people talking about it. So I don't think a congressional hearing will be more interesting than a 90-minute movie. I mean, like, that's the thing. Well, there's tons of good videos about this. Paul Newhouse even has a video out himself, and it's got like 800 views, and it's like people don't want. This is why I've been saying, if you've noticed, for like the last 3-4 months, I knew we were headed in this direction because people are not really having these, they're not really seeking out issues, or, they're just trying to get through this time. It's like when you're going through hell, keep on going, or whatever, Right. That's kind of where we are in history right now. People just want to keep going. Like, they don't want to stop and have weird conversations with people. They just want to get through, get home, whatever they're doing. But I still think change can happen, but it really has to be thoughtful, and it has to be one person at a time. And nobody wants that. Everybody wanted the magic bullet, just like, and it's like, there won't be a magic bullet because the whole system is stacked against it. It has to be a one person at a time thing. But I will tell you, if you run the numbers, if everybody literally did what I'm saying and would talk to one person a day thoughtfully about this topic, it would only take probably, I didn't run the numbers, but it would only be like 13 days and this problem would be over.
Yeah,
it would be exponential thing here.
Six desks away from everyone, right?
Yeah,
or something like that, whatever that was.
Because if everybody tells everybody, and you go on to that, like this, I don't think it's technically exponential in that way, but actually I think it is.
We just call it an R0. Yeah, like the virus spreading. This is what we're looking at. This is an R0 6. We need to get that R0 so that every person infects 6 people, and then 6 people infect 6 more people.
Yeah, and if everyone would reach out to 2 people a day if they're feeling really, and that's what we're trying to figure out right now, is what level of virus is our movie. And maybe it's not that contagious, and I do wonder, like I don't know, I can't tell.
I mean, really though, if you just stopped, like, part of the up to the film was you were stopping and talking to people on the street and asking them what they knew about nicotine, right? But stop and talk to people on the street and say, "Are you interested in watching something about nicotine?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it should be close people, like. Everyone should have already called their mom who's using cigarettes and said, "Hey, did you watch this thing? I know it's weird because you're sensitive about being shamed for your whole life about this, but I believe that if you watch this, you won't feel that way. And like, I will come and watch it with you, like that kind of thing." And everyone's like, "Well, like, just put it on YouTube and then everyone will watch it." But everybody knows that no one will watch it because otherwise every YouTube video.
The only people that are going to watch it are the people that want to watch it, the people that know about it.
Exactly, right. And that's why the thoughtful conversations have to be happening, where people don't think people are passionately advocating for something, because when people actually see that sort of like an emotional, passionate thing, that triggers something in people's brains that say, "I'm not sure that I'm being told the truth." Because why use emotion? And I understand why. And I see some of the comments about that. I understand why people are emotional about this. I get emotional about it. So please don't get me wrong. But most people, when they're being told something that they don't believe, if the person telling them that seems like there's like they're using emotions, then that is a way of persuading someone. And once they sort of feel that they're being persuaded, they immediately say, well, I don't know about that. That's partly why our movie definitely took more of a thing. But yeah, it's unfortunately we're telling everyone to be a PR like machine, and that's not going to work. But just thoughtful conversations, if everyone would do that, the R naught of whatever this film would be much higher. But I think right now it's hard to even get emails out. So I don't know. I appreciate you guys having me on the show, though.
How easy is it to say, look, I don't smoke myself, but I understand why you do, and I would like you to understand why you do, or use nicotine in that instance. There was a Twitter line, and there's no way we can go through it all. And I didn't read every single one of them, but she was fighting tobacco. She saw your film, Camellia Anderson. I don't know if you know her or not, but this was pretty in depth on figuring out how to do what you just said, basically. So I threw it in the chat. And a friend of the show sent it to me earlier. So I literally am going to tag you in it above it. That way you see it later. You don't have to do it now, but there were some really nice comments about it. He's putting it on screen. Interesting way to highlight what you said though, just now, Was
she referencing the movie or just social media in general? I guess
down to the end.
Smoking.
The film is including the film. Not on every tweet.
So this is like I see. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few tweets.
Wow. Well, it's a serious topic, and I can understand why people do get emotional. I can also understand why people don't like to always talk about it in public, right? Yeah. I mean, people have been literally scarred and mistreated over this, and that's partly why a lot of people, I have been telling them, hey, if you're someone who thinks you know nicotine, you need to watch the movie so that you can have the confidence to talk calmly. It's like when you actually have a little fear that maybe you're wrong or that maybe someone won't believe you because maybe it's not that clear. That's when I think the emotions have to get used. And I think it'd be best if we could just have calm discussions about it. Like, hey, I know you just said the kids are losing 10 points off their IQ if they use it. Well, hey, here is science showing that is the opposite of that. It really would be good if we could not be shaming people who are using nicotine for a variety of reasons. It'd be really nice if you wouldn't be shaming them. Like, if you just say that, like, what is the media going to say to that? They might ignore it, which is probable. But if someone, essentially this is about, we're stigmatizing and shaming people. A lot of them are in different minority groups or immigrant groups or indigenous people groups. Like, this is definitely not a thing people should be doing right now in history. Yet it's okay as long as, and some people in Australia have told me they believe that some of these smoking regulations are legitimately intentionally racist. Because if only a certain group are using cigarettes and you ban cigarettes from a certain area, you've essentially just redlined a whole district, like specifically the central business district of a downtown. I don't know if I personally can go that far in confidence, but I certainly think it's plausible because some people do things even without knowing they're doing it. So the undesirables,
obviously, we see cities and states putting in place anti-vaping legislation to prevent people that are in Section 8 homes, for example, from smoking or vaping inside of their Section 8 homes, or multi-unit dwellings where apartment complexes and things like that. So that does impact a certain group, a certain demographic harder than others.
Well, and with smoking, there is some level of property damage, I do believe. Obviously, I mean, we've all been in rooms where you can't get that out and they need to drywall the whatever. I mean, I understand that a little bit, but we know that's not the case with other nicotine products. You'll see some people are saying no nicotine products at all. Like U-Haul won't hire anyone who's using. What? Are we joking here? What about if you have Tourette's? I mean, you're not allowed to have a job anymore?
We had, obviously Eliana was here last week and she discussed the fact that she bought a used car that was from Japan and the person that had it prior to her was a smoker. So she did a nicotine test on the residue to verify whether there was nicotine in the residual discoloration and stuff, and there was absolutely no nicotine in that.
Ta-da!
That was science.
Yeah. And would that be considered third-hand smoke? Is that what they call that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
that's what we covered last week.
Oh, did you? Okay.
One of the things that we covered. She actually brought out a nicotine model and broke it down and showed how the body, how your body breaks it down into was it niacin, vitamin B,
yeah,
and like
Baby
a
food.
Carbon.
Actually, I said
and
yeah.
it was
to that,
awesome.
and I don't actually know if that's true, to be honest. I don't know why I said yeah. I'm just like acknowledging what you're saying.
But
I can't recall.
An actual scientist showing how the body breaks it down. What happens to it? It snaps. This chain snaps, and this goes over here and connects to this thing, and this gets reabsorbed into the body and urinated out. Urea. I mean, she went through the whole thing. It was
actually a molecule, Aaron.
She had like a molecule of nicotine that she showed, and you're like,
yeah, I will say she's one of the brightest, communicating minds out there right now, and I have a ton of respect for her. She's great. So yeah, I was stoked to see that you had her on. She deserves every platform that she can get, and she's the kind of people that we want in front of people. Like she should be talking, and that's partly where we need to get her in front of people more.
And the thing was, she's a chemist and a pharmacist, and her mother was a 40-year smoker, like a 3-pack a day, like smoker, not even just a little. Like she was a very energetic smoker, and she is now a vapor. And I said, as a scientist and a daughter, you're going to do every bit of research into a topic, into that product, before you let your mom use it, right? And she's like, absolutely.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, but then they would call people like her, big tobacco shill and all these nasty stigmatizing language. Once you turn stigma into a weapon, they start using it against anybody that's not with them. And that kind of stuff is so destructive and ridiculous because, of course, a scientist like her is going to research this stuff and then use her wisdom for a loved one. You could tell what people actually believe by what they do when the cameras aren't on them. And some of these people that are against nicotine vapor products are actually buying them for their kids. That's a fact.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind.
And so it's like,
during
why
a pandemic,
is it because we know better? We know, they know, people know, and it's like, anyway, I'm sorry. Now we're drinking too much whiskey. This isn't an official interview. This is a hangout, so this can't count.
That's a sobering thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a question in the chat room, and you told me nothing was off limits. So Anthony Mario wants to know about. I hate to ask this, but what are your thoughts on the donation from A Smoke-Free World to the You Don't Know Nicotine film? Was there a donation?
Well, first of all, that's
why
that's like a leading question. Like, when do you beat your wife or whatever? Like, well, I don't, or whatever that one thing is about beating your wife. Like you can't answer that correctly. First of all, the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World gave no money to this film. I don't know why people are saying that. It's offensive to me because they're using that in a stigmatizing way, even though I don't think the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World is bad. I don't care where they got a grant from. That's irrelevant. The people running it, Dr. Derek Yack, is a lifelong advocate for people doing healthier things. He had his own mother died from smoking. He's certainly not trying to promote cigarettes. Like all this sort of nonsense, it's ridiculous. And I acknowledge in the film that we did some films with them. I was very proud of that stuff. I am very proud of it. But to assume that because in a different part of my job doing like promotional things that that a movie that I was directing got funding from that, like that's nonsense. And it is offensive to me because I know why people are saying that and they're trying to hurt us. It's like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, if, for example, McDonald's hired your production company to make a movie, and a bunch of people started having heart attacks from eating French fries. Are you responsible for those people because you took a paycheck from?
Hold on. It'd be like if McDonald's hired me to make a commercial, which I wouldn't do because I don't think that's a good thing to eat McDonald's. Okay, so I wouldn't do it because I'd feel bad. But let's say that they did. Let's say like 4 years ago, I made a McDonald's commercial. Okay, and then I made, let me think here, like you don't know wheat or something like that, or you don't know hamburger buns. Okay, and then people would be like, Aaron Biebert, how much money did McDonald's give you for this movie about hamburger buns? Like, that's literally what, and it's not even that, because the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World is not a tobacco company. It's a foundation that has all these legal structures in there and independent everything. Like, so it's kind of like, it's like a variety of degrees of dishonest. And yet the funniest thing is, like, this kind of stuff, people got to fact check their own stuff, because why would anybody believe you about nicotine vapor products being healthier than cigarettes if you can't get stuff straight with, stuff like this? And funding is very important for credibility for movies and stuff, which is why I've been dragging our whole thing through this crazy pandemic. Like, if we had trillions of dollars from all these big companies, I guarantee you that this movie would have been done sooner, that it would have been like probably free, right?
So
that's how you know a movie is not independent, when it's out for free, because that means it's promotional for something. We're not promotional. Yeah. We're actually making an independent film, Go
ahead, Patrick. I know
one more question, just to follow up on his second question, was why does Vida News have the same address as your production company? And I will tell you this: Vida News has done nothing but amazing things. Vida News has done nothing but amazing things. So I don't even know why that question's relevant. I'm still trying to get Dom on the show.
Well, I think I don't know that they're doing that anymore. So
because they did a lot of great fucking shit.
Yeah, no doubt. And that is something, and I've said, I don't know if people have been paying attention out there, but I've openly told people that I've been helping that project. Obviously, those of you who watched that, Vida News, it's like a Spanish word that means life. That is a good thing. I've been very helpful and supportive of that. And we care about that project quite a bit. So I don't know. I guess I'm not exactly sure I understand what Vida News has to do with You Don't Know Nicotine, which is a movie, and one is like a
Smoke-Free World.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I don't mind.
Crazy people have perpetuated into the internet and have grown and spread like wildfire, because people love drama, and if it bleeds, it leads, and they want to create stuff out of nothing. So we had Dr. Charles Gardner on the show, and he
used to work for the foundation as well. So
he left the foundation, and I made a point to talk to him and tell him, I invited you. I didn't invite any of the Smoke-Free World stuff. He says, I'm hesitant to talk about it because people are going to make a big deal about it. But he said, in all the time I worked there, nobody from Big Tobacco ever came into our offices and told us what to do. Ever.
So, Aaron, wherever you went.
Hold on 1 second. It looks like my camera battery. I just have to switch it quick. Hold on. We went too long. Hold on.
Are you putting on a different sweater? Don't you come back with a new sweater?
Yep, I'm coming back.
Well, make sure you're dressed, at least.
I got to get my Christmas sweater on, so this will be a grand reveal here. So just hold on 1 second.
I'll give you something to answer while you're doing that. Of the vapors, and
Anthony, I'm not criticizing you, and I'm not trying to attack you, but it is that is a persistent load of crap that's been circulated and tried to discredit Aaron in the film. And if you've seen the film, you'll understand that obviously there's no way that Big Tobacco or any of those people could benefit from this film. It wasn't meant to, but obviously this is this is a scab that everybody wants to pick every once in a while.
And I would wish people would just go watch the movie before they talk about it. Like, I don't understand why people aren't watching the movie. It's a 10-day trial. Just go watch the movie and then let me know what you think about
obviously,
it.
Go sign up for the if you haven't already seen it, go. And even if you have seen the movie, I'm going to go sign up for the platform just because I want to see what else they have on the platform. And it's only $6 a month. Come on. If you find one film that educates or informs you a month, then you've made back your money.
Well, we're going to be putting more stuff on there, like I said. So people are supporting. It's like a new version of essentially it's a new type of crowdfunding. Like if you support it, more stuff comes. And I mean, it's going to be coming anyway. But like in theory, if we end up getting 10,000 people to subscribe to this thing, we'd be putting out like movies like every 3 months, and like craziness would be happening. So,
Anthony brought up a really good question because it's always being asked. So I think it's good we covered it.
Yeah.
I want you to, I know it's a guess, I'm sure, of all the people that donated.
Is it geo-blocked? Is Ibex geo-blocked?
Oh, I don't know.
Because Anthony's saying he's having difficulty using the platform. And I know that.
Well, I literally looked at the data the other day, and there's been like 87 countries and a healthy amount from like tons of countries. So I don't know which country. Maybe North Korea it's geo-blocked, and probably China, but not by us. And
I know that there was supposed to be an app, and there's no app yet. So
there is a Roku app. You just have to go on. Yeah, you just have to go on Roku to add the channel.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, Aaron, you had crowdfunding.
Yep.
Completely. And it's a weird question. I'm not sure how to phrase it.
Well, I don't know what completely means, because I've also said that only covered probably about a third to a half of the cost of the film.
Let me rephrase that.
Oh, sorry.
You got crowdfunded by people, as far as I know. It's just people, but how many of those human beings, right, were vapors, and then everybody else? I didn't know if you knew that, or 10% or half.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's like one of those things. Like, I mean, I would assume it was a decent percentage, just because a lot of people from that community followed A Billion Lives were eager to see us make another film. But we didn't ask. There was no litmus test of, whether you could, are you a vapor? And knowing full well, that there were people. Of course, we invited everybody. I did go to a conference where they were discussing this, and I was invited to come and talk, and they said, tell us about what you're doing. So I did. And some people were like, oh, you were trying to get, people use nicotine to support this film. Well, yeah, we're trying to have these conversations with everyone who will listen, but it's always got to be the ones who want to see the change, who understand the truth. Those have to be the ones that support the things at its infancy. Otherwise, it doesn't go beyond that. So I don't know why everyone's always asking, like, why are you trying to get us to see the movie?
Right.
Well, because that's how this works, Like, imagine a sports film about, like, the Green Bay Packers, but the Packer fans were like, we already know all that. We don't need to watch it. Could you imagine if anybody would ever make another movie about the Green Bay Packers if all the Packer fans said, we already know about them? Like, it's shocking. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, of course you have to support things that, you understand sometimes, even though, a lot of people don't know what they know about nicotine. Even I didn't know.
Anthony, I just put the link in the chat room for the Ibex help contact us link.
Or just support. It's just support at watchibex.com. You could just email them, support at watchibex.com. That will get you a direct email right to them.
So I got a couple questions for you if Patrick's not going to segue into anything.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So from your perspective, you can answer them in any order and any way you deem necessary. You had honest conversations in this film. For those who haven't seen this, see this friggin' film. Don't guess about what's in there.
I don't know why people are doing that at this point. It's actually just ridiculous.
Stop being silly. So
yeah, please.
In no particular.
Depressing.
It is depressing, and it really is.
I'm drinking. I'm like, I drank this whole thing during the show. Like.
Oh no, we're enabling you.
You still got this much.
So, what was the most insightful for your film? Who was the one you really, really wanted to get and didn't? and what did you learn from it yourself?
Well, all right. I'll start with the one that got away. The one we really wanted and didn't get. I really wanted Michael Bloomberg to sit down with me, but he didn't. So that was the one that got away.
Okay.
By and large, we didn't. You know, I wanted to sit down with Matt Myers over at Tobacco Free Kids. He also got away.
Right.
Wow. You know, I mean, we got a lot of good folks in this, though. I don't know. Like, I have no regrets about the film, really. I don't think. I mean, the fact that we were able to get a very rich mix of people on all sides of this discussion and have a good conversation. The public, members of the general public thought this was a fairly neutral, yet kind of like surprising and a little bit, you know, I'm going to have to give this some thought, you know, and, you know, like that, but they didn't dismiss it. They didn't think like, well, these guys are clearly here to whatever, you know? So I don't have regrets on that. I guess, what did I learn that I didn't know? I think probably the big one was that 1,500 different ways that nicotine can affect a person. Yeah. I mean, like, or as a combination of, you know, sensors, nicotine sensors in your brain. That was shocking to me. 1,500 ways, you know, like, I guess that means technically almost nobody could ever really fully know nicotine because all they know is how it affects them. You know, maybe if they found a club of all the people in the world that have their exact same sensors in their brain, and at the same time they were using the exact same delivery method and the exact, well, then they could maybe talk about what it does. You know, we know nicotine. Yeah, I mean, and so, you know, that was, I'd say, probably one of the bigger ones. I guess the brain stuff, the protective effects, the anti-inflammatory properties of nicotine, they're very powerful. There's a lot, some things that aren't in the movie that I learned, you know, talking about the triggering the body to burn brown fat cells. Like, there's tons of things. Nicotine is, you know, I mean, I've been drinking here a little bit, so now, you know, I'm getting sloppy, but I mean, nicotine is really interesting. Like, I'm trying to not get overly crazy about it, but like,
it's an amazing,
like you know, and I didn't quite understand that. I was going in kind of like looking to see what's the damage here. You know, we got a bunch of teens doing it. What's the damage? And then let's see what maybe some positives to it, and let's weigh the damage and the positives and
go on.
You know, ultimately it looked like there was basically no negatives, except for younger people shouldn't maybe make financial commitments to using something their whole life, but some young people, it's very possible that they should be using nicotine. And I'm okay saying that. I will say some kids probably should use nicotine. I'm going to say that. Well, maybe it's because you guys got me all liquored up, but think about the kid with the Tourette's. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like, please don't tell me if you have a neurological difference that nicotine can directly treat over what pride / shaming / whatever problem someone might have. Would you ever deny something that grows in a plant for a kid to use it?
Right.
That doesn't cause them any harm other than addiction. Yet for most people, again, keep in mind, they may not have those sensors where it would be so remarkable, as Dr. Naira said, that the effects would be just so remarkable that they couldn't, or that they wouldn't want to stop. That's very few people, by the way. I would invite anybody who's not using nicotine just to try it. You might find that it literally doesn't do anything for you, and that this boogeyman is really just kind of a straw man for most people. You know, there's a reason why so many people were able to quit smoking when they found out, like we said earlier, and there's a reason why tons of these kids, have tried it at a party. I believe that to be true. I've talked to a lot of kids for this movie when we were talking more about generations and things. We didn't end up going down that route as much as we were maybe going to. But they were all like, yeah, I tried it, you know, but it was, you know, whatever. I prefer weed or whatever. Like, I mean, these people don't give a rip. They didn't love nicotine. They didn't use nicotine all the time. It was only the kids that were really hurting that it stuck with them. But then in that point, it's essentially some sort of a medication. Like, why are we shaming people over using essentially a natural medication? I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It's tough for me to, you know, swallow that.
And you gave, and if you watch the film, you can tell, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You gave every single person, I know editing is editing and I don't understand it. You didn't include everything, but you gave everyone ample including the Professor Puff and Stuff himself, Opportunity. I know, I can't help it. I'll take it personally. Everybody can mail it to me if you got a complaint. When you ask everybody,
they won't
including
complain. They won't complain. No.
the leading
Anyway, go ahead.
the leading experts on both sides, and I'll quote both sides, experts, and they had complete and total autonomy, ample opportunity, no holds barred, say what you need to say. Did you at any point go, "Ooh, I'm not putting that in the film"? You didn't, in my opinion. I'm going to ask you that, but
Well, I had a 3-hour conversation with Dr. Glantz, so not everything is in the film. I mean, that's for sure a fact. In fact, I mean, like I said, I've told people we have 200 hours of interviews. I mean, everything. I mean, we got 95 minutes of that, and half of that's probably me talking. So you only got 45 minutes of these 200 hours in the film. So,
right.
I mean, there's tons of stuff. I mean, Dr. Glantz did go into other things that really it looked like he was conflating nicotine and smoking, and for us, we didn't feel like that would be honest to put that in the film because some of the audience might be confused about it. Right. Whereas when he was talking about the anti-Viagra, in some effects, perhaps in people who are maybe newer users of nicotine and using high doses, perhaps they might have a little bit of a hard time getting an erection for like the first 20 minutes after using it. But like that doesn't mean it's permanent or any of that kind of stuff. Right. You know, the underwear smelling like outerwear, that's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that had to go in. That just, I don't even know. He's talking about smoking, I think. I don't know. But, you know, when we asked him the biggest risk, he said addiction. I mean, that was his honest to goodness answer to that question. And to me, it's like, you know, we didn't put all of the things he said because some of them, you know, when we were fact checking, we just didn't seem to be the most clear or concise or truthful or whatever scientific ways to talk about it. So we didn't include some things for sure.
Right. But they had ample opportunity to give you the meat.
Yeah, you know, of course, and editing is tricky like that. We tried above and beyond to make sure that nobody could come back and say, you took that out of context or you totally ignored my main point. You know, we did not do that. Yeah,
I wish I would have asked you differently. What did you take out of context? Anything? And they had ample. That's the better way to put it. Actually,
it's like the question before. Like the other question I was saying is tricky. Like, what did you take out of context in the film? You know, like just assuming that we did it. You know, it's like, come on. I don't think we took anything. We were very careful to do that. I think the trailer's a little different. So that one, I think you could say. But trailers always are out of context because there's just no context in a trailer for a 95-minute film. You know, like I'm sure there's some things that people are like, whoa. But I mean, that's why you have to watch the film, you know.
I had to watch it, and I've got 8 pages of notes in this book.
He did take notes
of your literally. I'm doing this, and then I'm answering my wife's questions, and I'm like, shush. So I learned 8 pages worth of things that I didn't know, and I consider myself an amateur researcher at best.
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah,
but there were things in there like the girl with Tourette's, and you knew about the girl in Florida as another example with brain epilepsy or brain seizures. I can't recall.
There's so many people though. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about probably 500,000 young people are probably using nicotine in some way for some medical condition. It's not all on the news. It's not all in movies like this. But we do know that it's a thing that is being used, and that science is out there. If you think about that family, like their doctor didn't tell them to do that. Like they just read it on the internet. You know, it's like sad that the doctors aren't telling them to do that, but like people are using the internet. Most of the kids told us,
the dad seemed very nervous about doing it as he was telling it, but he did it anyway, you know, and I'm not going to give it all away, but damn.
Yeah. You know? So people have told us like they were afraid. I mean, we had to blur out some things. I mean, I mean, it's tough, but I think we made an honest film. So if people are wondering, like, did we leave out something we left out a lot. So I wanted to, again, be very honest about that. Of course we left out a lot, but as far as like making twisting. No, I wouldn't say that. Was there another one of your questions? Because you gave me 3, and unfortunately, when you had all the drinking games earlier, I don't.
No,
I don't
you're
remember.
good.
I don't remember 3 questions at a time. Only 1, and I could barely do that. So.
No, you got them. You got them. The
Right.
insightful and the what you learned. Go ahead.
We covered that according to Stan, the only harm of addiction of nicotine is addiction.
Well, he didn't say the only harm. He said, I said, what's the biggest harm? Like, what's the most harmful thing about nicotine? And he said that the most harmful thing is addiction,
Okay,
and then he
so
also told us about the anti-Viagra, but he said other stuff too, by the way. I just want to make sure I'm being open about that. He probably talked a good 30 minutes about that, but that's where it got kind of confused with smoking and vaping and nicotine, because I asked only about nicotine. I was not that concerned about delivery methods. I wanted to get to the molecule. And yet a lot of people got stuck on, delivery methods. And so the movie kind of sometimes did get stuck on delivery methods, even though we really want to talk about the molecule. Yeah.
So, okay. So even if we accept, let's just go way out here. Even if we accept that nicotine is addictive, and then we take in all of the other data that was provided by other experts that you interviewed in the film and not in the film. If they're on the cutting room floor because of one thing or another. But if we accept that that nicotine is addictive, and then all of this other stuff shows that nicotine is beneficial for a certain group of people, it's protectant to, it helps mental focus for another group of people, so forth and so on. And it helps people with Tourette's and epilepsy and all this other stuff. If the only harm is that people are going to use a product and be addicted to a product that might benefit them, is it really a harm? Is addiction really a bad thing? Being addicted to
not addiction. That's not addiction then. If there's benefits to doing something, we don't call that benefits or addiction. We call that supplements. Like, oh, you're taking a supplement. Oh, like very nice. You have a regular supplement.
It's a maintenance medicine.
Yeah, I mean, the word addiction just can't be used in with benefits. It's like the opposite of it. I mean, as far as like a net benefit, it's either a net positive or a net negative. And if it's a net positive, then it's not addiction. And that's where I think cigarettes, there's a very good case for that, potentially that could be called addictive, because there is obviously harm. And a lot of people have a hard time quitting cigarettes, but they just transfer that right over to any nicotine product. And that's where it's no longer an honest thing. So I don't even know. It's a hard conversation for me to have. Like, if something's being really helpful, but you're addicted, like, is it, well, no, then I don't, that's like water, water's helpful, but you can't give it up. Like, we don't call it addiction, like, I don't know. I know that's an extreme thing, but like at some point you have to say, like, just because you regularly use something and you don't want to give it up, then, like it's not an addiction, like, come on, we're being dishonest, not you, but I mean, like, the society is not being honest with itself.
I regularly eat, a thick, juicy steak. That doesn't mean I'm addicted to them, but I enjoy it, and I'm, I get sustenance from it as well. But, many people would say that red meat is dangerous for me. So,
well, and that, I mean, of course, like everything in not moderation does have some negatives, but it's like, at some point I'm going to have to probably go into this more with another film or something. I mean, I will say, and this is me going off on a little bit of a tangent, but like brains are not operating the way everyone thinks they are. I'll just tell you that all right now. One brain scientist, like a high level brain scientist, said that if everything you can know about the brain is a mile long, we've gone 3 feet. So,
I mean, I'm a neurocertified therapist, and I'll tell you that we don't know shit.
No,
I
don't know
two
anything
patients
about
that
brains.
have the same exact stroke in the same exact place, and they present completely differently.
Yeah, I would say so. It's like funny when they're all like the brains and the kids as brains. It's like that's just like that's not what the science is showing. But even if it was showing it, that doesn't mean any. Like addiction. What if addiction is not what everyone thinks it is? What if your brain is choosing something, like in this case, because the other part of your brain that doesn't verbalize things is saying like you need to use this, and your brain is actually choosing to use it, not an addiction. It's just the two parts of your brain fighting each other, and the one side, which knows better, is saying whenever you use this, I work better. Use it. And the other part's like, I know it's bad for me, so I can't use it. And then the other side's use it. You know, like,
right.
You know, like, I don't know. It's tricky.
I mean, I
don't,
know, you know, Jan says in the chat room, she's talking about opiates and stuff like that. I know quite a lot of people over the years. I used to work in magazine publishing that were highly functioning people that were addicted to cocaine and never interfered in their life at all, other than the expense. But never, you know, I mean, obviously there has to be some harm, but it never interfered with them. It actually kept them even, you know. I hate to say it that way, and I don't want to promote people going out and snorting coke, but for some people,
it works.
It actually didn't cause them problems. And then, I mean, I've smoked marijuana and it didn't do shit for me. Like I never had to go back because it literally didn't do anything for me.
And I think this is what you just described. And by the way, I've also had some studying a little bit about that concept. In nicotine and THC are all the cannabinoid receptors are, as far as I can tell or recall, are two of the only things where you have like these sort of direct sensors built into your brain that literally take these molecules and fit them right into the thing. There's something, and so like it's interesting, like when you said THC doesn't do anything for you, that is similar to how some people experience nicotine. It doesn't do anything for them. You happen to have the nicotine receptors, they happen to have the THC receptors, and you don't have this and they don't have that. Like, that's an experience that you could share with people as like, yeah, I don't, you know, like.
Yes, Dan, I know that cocaine is not an opiate, but I was just using that as an example.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I know that there are people that are frequent users of fentanyl that it, you know, keeps them normal. It keeps them, you know, and then there are other people that have maybe a highly addictive receptor in the brain or whatever it is that makes them more susceptible, that it harms a lot. And obviously we don't need to diminish the fact that we have a huge problem with opiates in the world right now, not just the States, but all things are not equal. And that's what I was saying, what we said earlier, you know, about Dr. Paul Newhouse's, you know, Upside Down You, and he was explaining how nicotine can help some people and not others. I think it works for that as well.
And I'm glad you caught that, because I was worried that we didn't have enough of some of the stuff that wasn't promotional. I mean, that's why a lot of kids don't use nicotine a lot, because actually it does make them feel less something, you know, like it kind of makes them a little dizzy, it's just not doing anything for them, but it's just kind of like those folks are the ones that aren't using it regularly because it doesn't do anything for them, you know. And like, we have to see this stuff clearly, and everyone is too, you know, this whole mono story, like everything has to be one story. Nicotine is as addictive as heroin, you know, or all of these, every human wants to just have everything be so simple. The problem is nicotine just isn't simple. And so, I mean, I think that's the greatest takeaway from it. And that whole bell curve thing, the upside down U shape, that's important for people to know. Yet I know people who are now using nicotine, even though it doesn't do anything positive for them, they're doing it out of hopes that it has protective brain functions, that it's helping protect their brain, because that's not something you would necessarily know. But they're not even wanting to use it. They're forcing themselves to use it. And they're having times where they're forgetting for weeks to do it. But I know tons of people now that are starting to use it medicinally, and they don't even want to use it. It's like taking their vitamins. They have to remember to do it. So, but, I mean, you know.
Dr. Gardner when Dr. Gardner was on the show, he was talking about getting rats to self-administer drugs, and to self-administer nicotine. And he said, you literally, you know, the only time that, I mean, the rats have to be trained to hit the button in the first place to get something. They're already highly trained to hit the button. Obviously, the ones that hit the button for drug delivery, they hit that button. They know that button is going to make them happy. The ones in the nicotine box literally don't push the button unless they're hungry because they might get food, or if you really stress them out, like if you completely separate them, because they're very communal creatures. They like a community. They want to have, so you make them lonely, you stress them out by shaking the box a lot or something, and then they will hit the button. So obviously that is a direct correlation to us, to humans, because you'll find that most people that are super stressed, that have a lot of drama, that have a lot of problems, they smoke. You know, people that are, living hand to mouth, that are stressed out, that's the one outlet that calms them down. Not everyone, but yeah.
Well, and if you think about opioids too, and I don't use too much of that, although I did just have kidney stones, and they gave me 8 pills for 5 kidney stones, so that worked out real well when I ran out after day 3 of like 7. They were being careful with that, and I have used opioids in theory, and that was only like a month ago. And you know what? It is relieving. It does relieve pain, and it does relieve stress. And I think that the bigger question, the one that nobody really wants to get into, is like, why is everybody wanting to relieve stress and pain and all of this kind of stuff? What's going on in our world right now? Not just right now, and I'm not talking politics or any of that stuff. I'm saying the last 20 years. Like, what is going on with our world? And yet we're blaming it on the symptoms, essentially. Like, why are people in so much pain? They're using a drug, which is actually a legitimate pharmaceutical drug, but is also something that can be misused. For sure. But it's like, why? I mean, we need to start asking the why. Why do people want to use nicotine? Why do they want to use opioids? What are we doing wrong as a society? And starting by shaming them as addicts, like that's the opposite direction. That pushes them to harder drugs because now they have more pain that they have to kill. I don't know.
And we do know that there are MAOIs in tobacco cigarettes, in combustible cigarettes. So that automatically is reinforcing as well.
Different documentary.
Yeah, and that's worth noting. I guess I do. When you think about nicotine delivery systems, and we didn't get a ton of that in the movie because we just felt like there's a lot of things already about that, including in a different movie. But
you talked about patches. There were patches in the film. The little girl had patches.
We talked about all of them. Yeah, we did try to talk about all of them just to keep it reasonable, But obviously, the main way that people are using nicotine outside of cigarettes is in nicotine vapor products. It's wildly popular around the world for people to use as an alternative to cigarettes. But in theory for that, I talked earlier about the outdated antique technology, essentially outmoded technology for using nicotine is in the fact of rolling it up and smoking it. That's outdated. But it does have some advantages, and one of them is the higher nicotine content in a cigarette compared to, that's partly why Juul was so successful in theory, is because it was more like that level of nicotine dosage, if you will. But then you have those MAOI things in cigarettes, and that is something that nicotine vapor products and snus and patches, they don't have that. So there is the need. That's partly why you need to make these products essentially attractive, as weird as that sounds. To some people, that sounds weird. You want to make nicotine attractive. No, you want to make the better nicotine more attractive. You're not trying to promote it for the sake of promoting it specifically, but you are trying to say that, hey, if you got to compete against something that is addictive, cigarettes, because they have a variety of chemicals in there that make it impossible, plus we know they cause harm, you got to make it as attractive as possible. That certainly doesn't mean cartoon, Tony the Tiger, vape liquid with fruity bubble gum, cherry berry, like lover bubber, let's act like adults here. Like it is an adult product and it should appear to be an adult product. I'm okay with it. I think that's reasonable. But even if it wasn't, I guess that doesn't change the fact of what it is. But why not be reasonable simply to be good neighbors to the concerned parents out there? But you have to have, something awesome about it. Otherwise, why would anybody want to use it? They're having a hard time getting rid of cigarettes because their brain is wanting that. So you better make it attractive to them. if you want them to choose something better, but yet that's not what you see, obviously. They'd like you to have only tobacco flavor. Well, then what? Horse apiece, right? Probably seems like, hey, I'm vaping tobacco. Well, because that's what your flavor's called, you know? Like, at some point, it gets so muddy that no one knows what's the better choice. So, I don't know. I know we're a little off, but you said MAOIs, and that's what we're talking about. Like, cigarettes still are the most effective way to get nicotine out there, or to feel nicotine. I mean, like, it's a very effective delivery system. It's obviously the most dangerous. So you want high nicotine, high efficiency, highly attractive devices for all those people. But we had to know what the risk was if kids started using them. And it looks like the biggest risk is probably financial, a lifelong choice of using nicotine, perhaps, even though that's not a guarantee. Tons of kids who told me they were juuling told me that after finals were done, their senior year, that they stopped. It was something they used in periods of high stress. And as soon as that was done, as soon as they figured out what college they were going to, and their girlfriend, you know, finally broke up with them after all their fighting, they said, I don't need it anymore. You know, so, you know, we still got to worry about those folks who are, you know, needing to use nicotine. You know, we need to care about those people. Yeah, we have to do it. You know, it's just simple.
That's a pro-human approach, Aaron. I don't know if everybody can get on board with this.
That's the stuff that keeps me up at night, is like, part of me just wonders if people just don't care. Like, I don't care.
But,
you know,
today, you know, now it's kind of the in thing to, you know, in certain places, at least, you know, we see harm reduction embraced in other areas. I mean, obviously we're seeing states doing needle exchanges. We're seeing condoms being passed out by health departments. We're seeing
the Olympics gives out 100,000 condoms or whatever, 100,000 or 500,000 or something like that. Yeah, that's harm reduction there.
We're seeing harm reduction being embraced by the government, by, you know, the players, except when it comes to tobacco harm reduction.
Yeah, and that's dishonest, really. If you think that, you know, they're always like safer doesn't mean safe. Well, what do you call condoms? You know, like, give me a break. How are those things
seatbelts
safe? You know, like, seatbelts hurt you really bad. I know a guy who's got a permanent like bruise through his body. I mean, you as a physical therapist obviously have seen that, I'm sure, as well, when people have an accident. Like, safe, what does that even mean? You know, I can't even believe that that's the word people require in order to try something. Safe? Exactly. Well, then you can't go outside, but you can't go inside either. Like, there's nowhere to go. You know, your carpet puts off like this and that. And like, you know, you can't win. Life isn't safe, you know, but we do have to do our best. And I don't think people are doing that anymore. They're just trying to keep it simple. Identify the bad and the good and only do the good. So I feel good about myself. But ultimately, people aren't doing good. They're doing things that are evil and they don't even know it. And that's where it's like, how do you tell someone that what they're doing might be evil? How do you do that if they don't think it's evil? I don't know. If someone has the answer to that, please let me know, because that's something I'm wrestling with. How do you tell people what you're doing is evil, but you don't know it? How do you tell someone that? I don't know.
I don't have it.
I need the answer to that.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Patrick? You don't have it either, do you?
I sometimes pretend like I have all the answers. This is not one that I have.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm sorry, I'm like depressing everybody here. Yeah, I'm just depressing everybody.
No, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we do every Friday night. So this is the emotional roller coaster that we go through.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously our goal is to be able to offer people choice. And you know what? I don't like cigarettes, but I think that everybody has the right to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of past that whole thing, you know, too. Like, we shouldn't be shaming people over. You know, if people know it's better, let them have the information. That's what I say now. And I kind of always felt that way, but I got a little bit into the other side a little bit.
You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah, give them the chance to drink, and then leave them alone. Like, literally, give them the chance to drink, and then get out of there. And I think that's where, like, some of these people, like, they just can't leave the horse. They gotta like
The
shove the
more you
horse's
push
face
people-
into the water, and it's like the horse doesn't want to drink. Leave it alone. You know, like come on.
The more that you push people, the more they dig their heels in.
Yeah.
So you have to give them the information. You know, obviously the number one factor in people quitting smoking is, they really want to? First, you have to really want to.
Well,
I mean, obviously we hear accidental quit stories all the time, and those are awesome and amazing. But, if you start pushing people and say, you can't do this, what's the first thing that people like me are going to fucking do is we're going to do the thing that you told us you can't do. We're human beings. Are
so
fucking
like when you guys go after people on Twitter, that's the same reaction they have. They're like, "Oh yeah, watch me. I'm going to say more of this."
That's true. That's
sorry.
We got to learn to practice what we preach.
Sorry.
Yep.
I mean, I care about. I want the truth and this sort of stuff to get out. So I'm eager to help, but I don't know. I sometimes feel very, very ignored.
I'm just picturing Aaron looking at my Twitter line, going tisk tisk.
No, I don't know. At the same time though, I feel like people are doing. I look at people's hearts more than anything, and I know where the heart's at. I just, I don't know. It's just tough. I don't know. No judging. I just hope. I have a lot of hope, not a lot of judging. I just want to win. The truth to win. I want people to know the best. I want people to have water.
And we're of the mind, and we've said this before. We will ultimately win.
Yeah.
It may take us decades, like the pot legalization people, I mean, literally that did not happen overnight. I mean, they were literally fighting for 50 years to finally be given credibility. And, the pot advocates were shamed just like us in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And looked at like they were trying to poison America's youth and turn all of those rich kids into, if you ever watch Reefer Madness and you look at obviously there's a lot of race.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, we had some Reefer Madness stuff in one of our teasers.
Yeah. And obviously they think that, back in those days that they pushed the story that, that those jazz musicians were going to turn your children into evil rapists. I mean, that's one of the mad sex fiends. That's what marijuana does. It turns you into criminals. And obviously the government is trying to turn us into criminals by continuing, if they outlaw this product, we're going to continue to use this product. The black market will thrive. And, they're turning us into criminals by, illegalizing a product that we've chosen to use to benefit us.
Yeah.
So,
at some point, that's one other note, about the film. We were concerned that even though tobacco harm reduction, this concept could literally reduce, I don't know, whatever you want to say. Let's say 500,000 deaths in the next century. We'll just say a number that maybe people can agree to. I don't really care what the number is.
As long as it's one.
Yeah, one would be great for me, honestly. And I feel like one of my really good friends, after they watched A Billion Lives, decided to quit smoking and switch to a nicotine vapor product, and is just feeling so much better. Life is better, work is better, everything's better. And for me, that was enough. That was enough for that. But I don't know. I guess I already forgot what I was going to say beyond that. Shoot, what were we just saying? Now I'm having too much drinks here.
You were talking about saving people's lives.
Well,
you said even if it was 500,000 lives.
Oh, sure. And I guess I mean, oh gosh, I don't remember where I was going with that. Now, I need to get something
Jen.
from my memory.
That's because you don't use nicotine.
That's what the problem is with tobacco control experts.
Everyone always says that I have never used nicotine, but that's not true. I absolutely have used nicotine. Can you imagine making a movie about nicotine or cigarettes and have never tried nicotine? What kind of weirdo are you? You're just, what if you're totally wrong? So it's not true. Like I said earlier, I've smoked cigars, People have sent me e-cigars. People have, there's plenty of. Oh, I have definitely have used nicotine. So I got to make sure I correct you on that one. Yeah, people, and I think people think that's like a credibility thing, like that if I've never, I know we came into this without having really ever used nicotine, but I don't know that how credible of a human being I would be if I made a film like that, and then, I was like, well, I don't know, I wouldn't try it. Like, I mean, it's
Right.
like, what? Okay, well, so I don't want to say that. In fact, I would say almost everyone on our team has tried nicotine. As part of our research for this film, we wanted to understand it deeply, so we compared notes, we talked about it, and we saw that U-shaped or the upside down bell curve, essentially, that some people it did nothing, other people were like, oh, this is actually pretty helpful, so it's definitely not it's not something I'm ashamed that I've used. I want people to be okay talking about using nicotine. I think it's perfectly fine to do that. We have found no major risks if you're not smoking it. So anyway, just to correct that, I guess that I don't know how often I correct that. A lot of people say a lot of things.
Did you get the COVID? Did you get the COVID when you were testing it out? Because they say that you could get the COVID.
No, let's not go there, because the nicotine nicotine definitely helps with some of the symptoms of COVID. That's a fact. It was known 10 years ago that nicotine reduced those cytokine storms, those inflammation things. That was part of the problem in the brain, where you were losing some of the loss of smell and taste. Nicotine does directly affect that stuff. There has been scientific evidence of that for a long time. It's not even new. The first thing when I heard about that loss of taste is I went and looked up, because I thought there was some connection, and I started messaging tons of scientists about this, like, hey, is this someone researching this? And then I started running into other people who were, and it doesn't prevent COVID probably. Maybe smoking might. It's tricky to know exactly. That one I'm not really sure on, but I do know the symptoms. It definitely does reduce inflammation if you have those receptors for those people. So it's not a universal solution to COVID. It would be for the people that have the inflammation, or reducing inflammation trigger in your brain when you use nicotine, and that would be helpful for those people to avoid maybe having some of the brain damage from COVID. Like where you're losing. Right. Some people have permanently lost it. It's very rare, but you don't want inflammation in your brain. That's literally what leads to Alzheimer's. So you don't want that. You want to reduce inflammation if you can. Yep.
And we actually had a scientist on explain last week why vaping does not spread the COVID as well. So
the COVID.
The COVID. Yeah. We did actually have a scientist on. So
I'll bet it could. I'll bet it could if everybody at a party was licking each other's vapes. I'll bet you could get COVID from that.
But.
I mean, in theory, right? Let's be honest. I want to be honest.
Okay. Yes. I mean, if it was a sex orgy, that was also a vaping party.
Well, no. If you're having sex, you have to wear a mask. Don't confuse the two.
Oh no.
Did you guys see in New York City that they actually told people that there could perhaps be a hole in the wall that they could use? Did you see that?
I've actually been to some clubs where that happens.
Well, I mean, this was the health. Keep in mind, this was the health department saying this. The health department.
Insert pun intended glory hole statements here.
That's what it was. I mean, legit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. New York City. Yeah. Health department put that out. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, and nicotine makes your underwear smell bad.
Which is not going to help you have sex.
It's been really difficult not to say those words. So I'm glad you said them.
I know. I'm sorry. Well, the thing is, at this point, I feel like if people have watched Dust Talk for 2.5 hours and they haven't watched the movie,
you gotta.
I don't know. Come on, people. I'm just so tired of people that are legit following this stuff, being like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But yet you watched a 2.5 hour. Come on,
can you buy the film for somebody on IBEX? Can you gift?
There's at the bottom of the link, or at the bottom of the website is a gift card. I know Skip's done this. The key thing is that there's a link next to it that's a redeem gift card. You just have to send that redemption link along with it, because they click there, put it in, and then they can pick what they want to watch or whatever. Or it's just the subscription at this point, so you could just give them $6 and they'd have it for a month or whatever.
I'm linking. I'm literally copyright infringing your tweets.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
Ibex part that you said on there.
I'm literally thinking of people that have relatives that currently smoke, or that are anti-vaping or anti-nicotine.
The relatives that are yelling.
You could actually gift them the film by giving them a $6 Ibex gift card.
Yeah. Yep. And then just I think the key would just be having very respectful conversations, saying, hey, I've been listening to what you've been saying over the years, and I know it's causing a lot of stress that I'm using nicotine. I learned a lot from this movie, and I'm actually going to be understanding some things a little bit more. I feel like it'd be great if you could watch it as well, so that we could have a good conversation about it moving forward. Like, who would say no to that if they genuinely cared, I think it has to be people that genuinely care have to be the first people to watch it. Like the mom who is legit. I know when we started making 1 Billion Lives, I got tons and tons of emails from moms. Like, I know this was crazy. You guys are probably sick of hearing about moms, but moms were asking me all the time, like, my kid works at a vape shop, and like, I'm just really worried. Like, is this worse than smoking? I can't wait for the movie to get out. I need to know right now. And we were, we knew at that point before the movie's out, just like we did with You Don't Know Nicotine. We knew, obviously, because we'd already done it. And we were comforting them. I mean, people want comfort. This is very stressful. If they have a loved one who is, even if it, like, let's say it's a wife and her husband is smoking cigarettes and she really just wants him to live longer, they should watch the movie together simply to have a conversation. So I understand you don't want to quit smoking, but what they really mean is maybe they don't want to quit nicotine. The problem is nicotine and smoking are so interrelated in the way people use it. They don't even know why they smoke. They need to know why they smoke. They smoke to get nicotine. So if that's the reason, then why not try something else? The problem is they think it's the smoke itself that they like. It's not, not generally. Maybe the MAOIs, but probably not. So not as much.
So you're saying information is extremely valuable. And I don't recall, because I didn't write who said this. Some people can't live without it. And I think it was Ray.
That was Ray Naira. Yeah, Dr. Naira. Okay. He said. And then when he said that, like, that literally was a moment for me, to be honest, in the film. I know.
That was mine. Yeah.
That was a big moment for me where I was like, oh, and I mean, I know I narrated that as well to that effect, but like in real, like sincerely, that was a real thing. When I was sitting there in that apartment in New York, I was like, oh,
some people can't live without it, I think is what the quote was.
He said, and for those people, the effects are so profound that it's like they can't live without it. Now, he didn't actually declare they can't. He said the words, they can't live without it, but it was prefaced with, like, perhaps they can't live without it. But even if, and that's where it's like, even if that, like, we needed to pursue that a little bit more, and then when you start looking at the brain scientists that are talking about nicotine, then it became very clear that is indeed true. When I was talking earlier about the brain, that we don't understand it, one of the things I am absolutely convinced of in my research and understanding of the world is that the brain, the nonverbal side, does want you to do things that you need to do. And people call that stuff habits. They call that stuff addictions. They call that stuff a lot of things, okay? But your brain knows sometimes. That's the tricky thing about introducing chemicals into your body earlier, is the brain will say, oh, that's available. Okay, I'm going to use that whenever I need this. Instead of depending on itself to cope, it uses external mechanisms. But when you're an adult and your brain is like, I want to go have a smoke after I just heard like this bad news. Like, well, the brain's like, okay, you need to chill out. We know this will do it. So go do that. Like, but then the other side's like, no, I know it's bad. I got to stop. Like, I mean, I don't know. So I guess part of it is, I don't believe everyone can live the same way without it. Like, they do actually need it to function the way that they can. Otherwise, we're literally saying it's okay if everybody has a governor on their accelerator. They can't all go as fast as other people. Like, that's not right. Plenty of very brilliant people use nicotine. because it actually levels them up. And we would want everybody in the world to have as high of a level as possible so that they could have, better lives for themselves, for their families, and so I do believe that it's true. Some people cannot live the way that they cannot live their best life without nicotine. And that's why it is a human rights issue, because they're being lied about it. It's being restricted unreasonably. And it's, and that's, I don't know. I guess I'd love to see cigarettes go away, just simply because everybody could use better tools. Just like I like the rotary phone going away. My grandma still has one, and it's it's annoying to dial on, and I would like for her to have a new phone for just because it's better.
But you don't shame her for it, do you?
No. I know, because she wouldn't know what I'm talking about. She didn't know there were other kind of phones, so that's kind of mean,
So yeah, that was one of the most shocking, unexpected comments made in the film. There were a lot for me even.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty biased, but wow. And when Dr. Newhouse says, "I'm sorry, that's the data," you can't. You didn't plan that. He didn't script it. That's just what he meant. That's exactly what it is. So
that's right. No, that's literally. I mean, we were very careful to leave the as much of the context to maintain that sort of integrity to what they were saying. We never did any of those weird little cuts where you took a thing and you put it after something that it wasn't referencing. We did not do that. We felt like that would not be helpful at all. We were very open and honest about that with ourselves. And and that's partly where you'll see though, I'll stop saying probably. We're getting enough support on this, on the through the IBEX platform at this point that we are going to do some things. It won't probably, at this point, we're still waiting to see if we can have a big enough rush, of people supporting it where you could do something really big, like a docu-series, which would be going deep dive into all of these things that were said. There's way more things. I mean, oral tobacco, we had a whole discussion about that. We had to cut. I mean, no, even more, even talking some about the history of the American smokeless tobacco and what happened once they started lying about that. There's tons of things, but we're just this is off topic technically. This is a little bridge. It's a bridge too far for some people, so, but we're going to be putting out, we'll be putting out extended clips for people if there's something that they want to see more of. We'll go back into the editing suite and try to get some of that stuff re-edited, and put out. We did put Dr. Abrams' story on there about how he changed his mind, and you could, as we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
So I'm surprised David hasn't showed up.
Which David?
Gerlitz.
Oh, David.
Sometimes he shows up in the chat room and
that crazy man.
I just talked to him yesterday about it, and he was taking a little break from Facebook. He said, but he did see the film, and he was feeling really good about it. He says it's re-energized him to get back in the fight a little bit. So he was feeling a little bit down with the whole lung situation. He's one of the best examples for me of don't tell me smoking doesn't cause problems. Come on, the dude's getting lung injections and all this COPD treatment. This guy is really hurting, and he knows it's from smoking. There's just no doubt. So I don't know. It's tricky when people try to tell me that, because I get in this world of everybody having a ridiculously opinionated thing about everything, and I just want to live in the middle where the science is, and it's so tricky because people aren't like that. People have feelings, and people have passion, and it's just hard. This has been a weird one for me. I don't know. I think if I make another movie, I'll probably just hide in a cabin for 2 years and then never come out, and just send it out and then just see what happens, and let someone else do it. It's stressful to have people constantly throwing random stuff all the time at you 24/7. I was getting phone calls about people not knowing how to log into their accounts and stuff. It's I don't know all this stuff,
You have to be like the guy that made Gasland.
Oh, that guy is not. I hope you don't want me to be like him. That was not a honest film that he made, the Gasland.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
But I don't want to be anything like that. Yeah. Although he did hide it.
Yeah. But he did the music. He played a banjo during the film. He tried to do the whole I'm just a regular guy sort of thing, and sit there and play his banjo and talk about fracking.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be.
Flame
I don't think you
shooting
want me
out
to
of
be like that. Yeah, we definitely
flame
had
shooting out of people's pipes, and
the
plastic.
second
and-
one. This is kind of funny that you bring that up, because even though I was obviously just being very critical and negative about him, just because I do want to preserve our craft and the respect for it. When you have that, like apparently that faucet was you could light that faucet on fire 50 years prior. It was always doing that, so it's like, that's an example of a bridge too far. Like, you just went too far with it. You didn't need to do that. Like, there's a lot of truth about what may or may not happen with certain activities, but like, that stuff not good. But I just watched his second film. Jenny just says, I don't think the world wants to hear Aaron playing a banjo. We have a banjo, by the way.
Oh no!
I might just play it if you guys.
If you're gonna do it, you have to put on a sweater.
You have to drink the rest of that bottle first.
I don't know where my ukulele is right now. Otherwise, I would get that out there for you guys right now. But I watched his second film again, or just started to watch it, because I was kind of like, how does our second film compare to our first film, and like his second one and his first one? And it's like, I was like, and I don't usually do this, but I was like, oh gosh, like our stuff is just so much better than this. Yeah. Like, I shouldn't even like say that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to be cocky, but like, we really made a good quality film. Like, I mean, it just is. Billion Lives was our freshman attempt, but like this one was world class. And I didn't want to say that, but I've heard so much now about it from a lot of respected filmmakers and film festivals who are like, dude, I wish we could have had you here this year. Like, this would have been a mind blowing year for us. But yeah, here we are, like, schlepping free trials on Ibex, like, it's like, all right, well, it's fine. At the end of the day, I'm very proud of it. The work we did, the impacts I've already heard from at least, I don't know, I don't want to get into numbers, but we'll say at least one person. Like, this film has definitely changed their entire understanding of their own life, their own history. And for me, that's, enough. Oh, geez. Why did you put that comment up while I'm trying to talk? Jenny says, yeah, please don't encourage him. At one point, he wanted to make You Don't Know Nicotine as a musical. We talked him out of it.
I stand with Jenny.
Okay, so I guess you're probably wondering if that's true or not. I don't know if you are.
Oh, no, it's true now.
It is. Jenny said it, so
yeah,
it's true.
It is true. I literally was contemplating using. Actually, I wrote some songs.
You do have access to musicians now.
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, we have I'd say one of the coolest groups of creatives available on our team that we can tackle some of the most interesting, coolest, creative, toughest topics in the world with a lot of things. I mean, we're really curious to do that. We're helping some company do a launch film for their new app that helps restaurants do a better thing with delivery so they can make more money. Like, we're getting involved with other stuff here while we see how this movie does. And getting ready to go back to work, if it doesn't, do well enough to focus on more stuff, which is obviously the sad part of all of
that. Jenny, I want that as an extra on the Ibex.
Yes.
Oh, is that true,
yes.
Jenny? Do you have that? Oh,
she says that she has the footage of Jimmy's face when Aaron pitched it to us and read us some of the lyrics. I definitely want that footage as an extra on Ibex.
Look at Aaron.
All right. Okay. Well, Jenny, make sure that's in the plan. Yeah. And just so everyone knows, we are actually working on putting out more stuff too. I don't want people to think but I mean, there's 20 people I work with. I work on probably like 5 different projects per week. Like, I'm very
and as an extra on the Blu-ray.
Blu-rays, I don't think so. Yeah,
you don't have final say. She does.
Well, no, the Blu-ray. I mean, the Blu-ray. We're not doing a collector's edition Blu-ray this time. It'll just be the movie. We're putting all the collector's stuff. It'll just be on the Ibex thing. Yeah, unfortunately, and I know that that's a weird thing, for some people. But the whole world has moved to a subscription model for everything. So like, it's nearly impossible just to do it in a sustainable way any other way. What we really have to do is form a really strong relationship where we can provide things that can change and affect people and make them understand things better, and at the same time that they would support us regularly, so we don't have to do Kickstarter campaigns. We don't have to keep marketing and spending all this time, that it just naturally shows up and people enjoy it and change it and share it. But that does require a lot of community partnership with this. And people have to have trust that we're doing our best with it, and the best way that we can keep adding things and adjusting subtitles and all of that. Like, we needed the right platform for that. So that's where the IBEX came from.
And I think that, like, the announcement this week that Warner Brothers is releasing all of their 2021 slate of films that would have gone to the theaters directly to the HBO Max app it's a perfect example of the world going to that subscription model.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just telling you guys, this is something we've known for 2 years, essentially, that the world, I mean, everything. Remember when you guys used to buy music?
Yeah.
You know, who's buying music?
I still buy music.
Anymore?
I just don't buy CDs anymore.
Well, sure, right. But a lot of people don't buy music anymore. They find that idea foreign to them. They just want to stream whatever they want to stream. Now, of course, that requires the platform to have enough stuff on it that you can find things to watch. That IBEX platform, though, is going to have a ton of interesting, cool things on it. I'm pretty committed. I've really enjoyed the process of doing that, being able to add things in real time and get analytics. Like, filmmakers don't have access to this kind of information typically. Like, I know all the countries, so like the countries that are watching it more, we can make sure that they have subtitles. We can probably put out content for their country specifically. Like, this is a long-term, like, some people think I'm only putting the movie on there, and then no, like, this is our future. So I know some people are very troubled by that because they're like, son of a beep. Like, I just wanted to, like, whatever. And we will sell the Blu-ray, so don't get me wrong. But, like, the world has moved to subscriptions, and we have to keep up, and we have to provide enough content that it's valuable for people to stick around every month. And we intend to do that. So keep that in mind. I mean, we are going to keep people sticking around. You saw already, we're not even a week away from when we just, like, launched this thing on the subscription. We already put out a 9-minute long David Abrams long extended cut. We're going to put out a lot more stuff. So one way or the other, it may not all be super fancy like a full docuseries, but I'm probably going to do, my next work will probably be a docuseries of some sort, or maybe some sort of a show where I go around regularly. Like, it's just going to be regular. The future is moving to that sort of a thing, a series structure and a long form relationship with people, that they stick with a platform for a long period of time, and that platform continues to provide them with new content. That's my intention for the rest of my career at this point, unless there's another mega shift in the world, which is probably going to happen, at some point, who knows? So, like, people have to please get on board with it. I saw tons of people did actually take the 10-day trial and then just leave, and it's like, okay, but some of these people were the ones telling me they wanted to see more. It's like, okay, that's borderline offensive. You can't say you don't want to support us and then ask for more. It just doesn't work that way. We need the community of people who care about truth and science and helping people. They need to come together, and we intend that the IBEX platform, we're going to have a lot of other documentary folks joining us with that, and it's going to be a place where people can really just go deeper in a lot of topics, and that's the intention for the long run. And this is the first major film on that platform, and so, like, in a lot of ways, and it won't be the last one. And so it's very special to see the folks that did get on board. I think Skip, who's on here, I was told it was the first annual subscriber, first annual member to IBEX ever. So, like, that's a great honor, like, in 5 years when this IBEX thing is like a mid-level, like, HBO Max, that's the intention, that this thing's going to keep growing into more stuff. Like, we'll be able to all look back, the folks that got on board with this, and say, hey, we helped, and we just made like 5 more cool films together simply by subscribing and being a part of this community. So that's what, and so I haven't talked super openly about that because I just want to keep focused on the film, but, like, that's where the future for our group is headed, is how do we be a part of, building something sustainable and long-term. And so, yeah, anyway, were there other questions?
Well, Bill's asking about using voiceover actors. Obviously, that costs money. Yeah, like some of these folks are $500,000 for, per day. So, I mean, we didn't get enough support, and I'm so stoked with what we did get, so please don't get me wrong, but, like, in theory, that's where those stretch goals would have happened with the Kickstarter. I mean, the average budget for a documentary that you've seen trailers for out there is $1 million.
we started at 50,000, full well knowing that that wasn't enough, but knowing that that would be enough for us to do it. That we would have to slave over it. And everyone worked at a discount rate essentially, or for free on the side of our other work, simply to make this thing as good as it was. But it was probably a good $500,000 budget if you were to actually calculate all of that kind of stuff. And to add more expenses at this point, or ever, frankly, for this film, knowing that we had 100,000 to work with of hard currency, and then just kind of that sweat equity, as well as our studio did obviously support it as well, like not charging for cameras, not charging, and having the people already on, some of these other projects that could easily help, like that kind of a stuff. But yeah, so no celebrities. Plus, I've been told that when people see celebrities, it really just asks deep down, they're asking, why did you need a celebrity? Why isn't this a real story? Like, unless it was the celebrity story, but just narrating a thing about nicotine looks like Big Tobacco or somebody just simply hired a big gun to promote nicotine. This had to be sort of a little bit like how it was in the movie. Like, of course, this movie could have been more polished and more this or that. Like, in theory, like it could have been a lot more cool, flashy animations and stuff. But we actually thought that style would actually do a disservice to it. It had to kind of feel a little bit campy, a little bit like this family went to go find stuff, which is indeed the truth, but it had to feel authentic. Like it had to feel exactly what it was, and so we couldn't flash it up too much because that would have taken away the innocence of it in a lot of ways.
And
like
that would have removed a lot of those butt shots.
Well, Jenny would have found a way to put in the celebrity butt shots then, So I can't believe she's watching right now. Like, this is way past her bedtime.
I love that she's in the room. Period.
Yeah.
I do.
Not in this room. I don't know where she is. Actually, she was my son at a soccer game.
And Danielle brings up that it's, it might be difficult to get people to subscribe to IBEX that are outside of the community. But the thing is as we help build that platform and more content from other creators are added, I mean, the whole point is we want to help IBEX grow because I like documentaries. And as that happens, there'll be more motivation for people to subscribe to that model because of other content that will be available as that content grows.
Well, yeah. And, and I know this has been, it's been tricky. And I just, like I said, I had to pick and choose the things that I got into while we were launching this thing. But now that it's just out, this IBEX thing, it will grow. I understand trying to convince your friends and family to join something. But in theory, that's with almost everything. If you think about it, like if we were on, it's on HBO Max right now, go watch it. How many people would say, I don't have HBO Max. Sorry, dude. And that's $16. Or I don't have Netflix. Well, that's $15 or whatever it is. Like, there's no doubt that whatever we put it on, somebody would say, well, I don't have that. And then people would be like, just put it on all the platforms, which is not possible. And, the question, there's no good options left anymore. If you look at all the major platforms, they're basically studios' own projects. Netflix is a movie studio. They make their own stuff now. They don't they don't put our documentaries on their stuff. They could have, and sometimes they do, but it's very rare. Almost everything now is a Netflix original. The same with HBO Max. That's all of the Warner Media's projects. Peacock is Universal stuff. Amazon is its own studio as well. They do put a lot of stuff on there, but they refuse to basically pay anybody for that. Like it's 1 penny per hour watch. That's what you get paid as a filmmaker if your stuff is on Amazon Prime. So like, do you think like we could ever make another film again if we did that? So like, I do understand that's why we required a platform that had a trial, because we knew that some people would not. And I still know that they still have to sign up, and I get that. Okay. But we're literally talking about life or death situation here, a life-changing film. Could you at least just fill out your name and email and like do a trial just to perhaps change your life? Like if people aren't willing to do that, they're not probably going to watch the movie, period. Okay. Like you have to want it, which is why authentic conversations have to happen. And we need to create buzz. Like, I don't know where the heck everyone is right now. Like we put out all this stuff and we get like 42 retweets, or like, is it just because people don't want to hear about it anymore? Is it because people somehow think we're like, big pharma funded or big tobacco? Or I heard the Tobacco Free Kids funded us, which is fascinating if you watch the movie. I have heard everybody in the world say we're funded by everyone else in the world. Like people in this, like that kind of stuff, if you're spreading those kind of weird rumors around, that's why we're at this spot, I think, is because people were making up so much stuff over the last 2 years that everybody's just like afraid and they don't know what. So here we are now with the movie out, and we got to convince people we're not some, like, I don't know what, like, I don't know. It's confusing, and the more I drink with you guys, the more confused I get,
Yeah.
Anyway,
actually,
sorry.
there's another documentary on there that I just saw that I'm really gonna be interested to watch, is an Iceland travel adventure, because Iceland.
That's a good one. That is an amazing piece. Yeah, people should absolutely watch that one. That is great. And same people that did the soundtrack for our movie did the soundtrack for that one. And that that is a good one. You should definitely see that. My good friend Eric is the narrator and director of that one. It's a good piece. Yep. There's actually a lot of good things. They're not super long and whatever, but like it's gonna grow, and we alone are gonna stock that thing with a lot of content. People just have to trust us, and folks like Skip, who put their money in before they even saw the movie or whatever it was, or I think no, and maybe not before she saw it, but before it was even on the platform, like that stuff just warms my heart and inspires me to death. But if we could just get like 1,000 Skips out there, this whole battle would be done. I promise you guys. Like, clean nicotine would be done if we had 1,000 people that were like working as crazy. And like that gal, I think she watched the film 14 times. She gifted it to like 12 people, and like, I mean, what kind of craziness is this, Skip? If you're watching, you're kind of crazy, but I love it.
She's there. She just commented about the Iceland piece.
Yeah. Oh,
so you've got 1 billion lives on there with bonus content.
And the German. Yeah, there's tons of stuff on there for it's not all that, some of it's not that good. I look back at some of the bonus content and I'm like, okay, that was, that stuff came out after the, the film and the piracy, and then we kind of had to slow down and cut the budget on getting some of that stuff done. But but you'll see that section.
There's David.
Yeah, more content is pending. Just wait for that. Yeah, that's going to be key. Oh yeah, the David Grillage film. For those of you who didn't see that one, you had that one was on Amazon Prime actually, and now it's on here as well.
And all this extra stuff that's here that you may not have seen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, right now it looks like it's Aaron Biebert centric, but
Yeah. No. There's a lot there. I mean, a lot of stuff that I am related to, but I think people don't understand. Like, I run a movie studio, I run a record label, and a lot of other things. Like this is
we need
putting out a lot of stuff.
We need a Son of Liberty radio theme song.
Yeah,
with banjo.
Because I'm using free Facebook music right now.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like the record label that we run does have the same sort of protections in place. So I'm not sure if it would yank it or not. I mean, obviously there has to be ways around.
No, I would never do that. That's the reason why I'm using.
I'm saying we could
Facebook.
give you a license because you're a friend of the family. I mean, and it's like a family. This Creative Northern thing, which you've just recently formed, is kind of the group of different things that we're doing. Like, this is some of the greatest people on the planet that care so much about everyone and the heart and soul they put into this stuff, and that's partly why I get so fierce sometimes. You see me just get like such a whiny little fierce, like, beep, like it's because like there's a lot of love that I have for these folks. I know, like, I get worried about them, like we gotta keep supporting these guys. And it's like, I tell people, like, let's make a movie about nicotine. And then if it fails, like, actually, like, what do I say to half the people that don't have jobs anymore? Like, hey, well, it was free on, Dropbox, so people didn't care about you and your job. Like, that's no way. If you want people to care about you, you have to care about other people, like, so how can we ask the general public to care about a film if we don't care about it ourselves as like a community of folks who care about harm reduction, like, so not to be on that speech forever, but like, I just urge people to try to think about $5.99 a month to like be a partner in creating tons of more things. And yes, you know, there is some of that going on, but there's going to be tons of other films that go on there too. So like at some point, people will find stuff they like. Right now it's a little bit slim pickings. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that, you know, but there will be a lot more. I think there's like 13 other directors that are having films pending right now going on that platform. I mean, it's going to be something. People will find stuff they like. I mean, it's going to grow. It's literally, I'm staking my entire like career on this. Like it will go, or I'm going to move to that cabin I told you guys about, and that'll be it. You'll never hear from me again. I'm moving to the cabin. Like this is
just make sure that there's a fishable stream there so that you can, you know, feed yourself and
a banjo, because you'll hear banjo music in the distance.
And Jenny, you know, I saw someone who has mentioned that they're addicted to banging their significant other. I am as addicted to that as well. So as long as Jenny's there, there's a stream with fish. I can eat bark in the winter off the trees, and I'm good. I don't need to put, you know, I don't have to do such.
You're gonna have to learn how to make beer.
Yeah, although I gave up drinking beer now. As weird as that sounds.
Oh,
I don't know.
Now you're gonna have to build a still.
Yes, and actually, I don't know if you guys ever saw this on Facebook, but a while ago I posted how I went to Menards here in Milwaukee and was in the tubing. Menards is like a Home Depot, basically. It's a pretty large northern Midwestern chain like Home Depot. And I went into the plumbing thing, and I had a couple of things in my hand, and some guy in a suit walked up, and he's like, "You building a still?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And he's like, "All right, you need this, 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 and this." It was like a science teacher or something. Like this guy was like, I thought I was in like Breaking Bad or something, you know, like, I don't know. That was.
You didn't even have to go to Twitter?
No. I mean, that's Milwaukee for you. There's a lot of fun little crafty, weird, and alcohol related sometimes. And, you know.
Milwaukee's like the Austin of the North, the Midwest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's a lot like it. I mean, similar people, similar vibes, similar a lot of things. It's not huge, but it's not that small. Plenty of big brands people know about, like Dell's from Austin, and Harley and Miller, and Kohl's is from Milwaukee. And, you know, like we've got stuff. I mean, world's largest music festival, they have South by Southwest, you know, so we compete with Austin a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aaron, we've had you for 3 hours now.
I know I promised you 4, but I don't know if I can go. And Jenny, too. I don't know what's going on with her. Yeah, I haven't even seen her. I didn't know she came back home.
Kevin said that he could only do 2 hours tonight because he has an appointment in the morning.
Yeah, well.
So we owe Kevin -1 hours here.
Yeah. So what we do at the end of the show is before we leave, we give our parting thoughts. What you know we want people to take away from the show. So I'll open up and let you offer your final thoughts.
Me?
Yes, you. Yes, you.
All right. All right. I'll actually look at the camera at this point. I've been looking at my monitor, but I think for me, the final thoughts, there is a lot of really good people involved with this fight to allow people to have the freedom and the choice to make, you know, decisions that affect them and their family in a positive way. We think that's a human right. I think there's a lot of good people out there that have been beaten for a long time, maybe don't feel the strength or maybe don't have the patience to see this through. So we do need to, you know, help reach out to more people, you know, one-on-one patience, like helping people slowly understand the concept more and then advocate for people. Advocacy is typically when you advocate or when you can't define something by using the word in it, but like, you know, advocacy is essentially trying to work on people's behalf to help them. We just need more people involved with that. So that requires kind of having good, calm, scientific discussions with people. I believe that the movie can help with that. I do realize it's not in the perfect setup like everyone would want. You know, in a perfect world, it would be on every platform, perfectly available for free, which is just not real life in 2020 anymore. Movies just aren't like that. You know, you're not gonna be able to see Wonder Woman 1984 on Netflix. You have to go to HBO Max for that. And while our movie is on a smaller platform, it is a platform that we have a lot of hope for and a lot of connection to, where we are able to make certain that it serves the needs of what we're doing and what people are asking for. And so we do need support for that. I don't know. I've asked for a lot of support over the years. There's been confusingly a lot of people that are questioning our motives, our way of doing things. Yet I think when you see the film, you know that we delivered exactly what we promised. And it was exactly the same thing that we started off 5 years ago to do, which was help people. Never once have we strayed from that. No matter what you've heard, you need to soak in what we've done, and you need to soak in who we are, and you need to actually look at us and talk to us before you would question us or spread weird things about us, because those weird rumors do damage things. They often damage the people that we're trying to help. They don't damage us. My friends and family don't give a rip what people are saying on their random shows and stuff like that. My life is fine. It's that the community becomes torn apart, and then the fighting and infighting and lies, and then the public just sees people that are crazy instead of seeing people that are right. And so that is so important that people come to the discussions with patience, respect, and care, just like they want from the rest of society. And we are doing that with this movie, and we would invite people to be a part of it, even though I know it's weird. It's 2020, but we just need people to trust us, trust that we're not stupid. Our team is brilliant. And yes, this was unexpected. A lot of it, just almost every part of this whole experience has been a little bit unexpected. Some of that outside of our control, but we have wrestled with it deeply. We have listened, researched, talked to tons of people all over about getting this stuff sorted out in the right way. And we think we're on track, but there has to be trust. And I don't see it right now. I don't see people trusting us. I see people still skeptical, still whining about a lot of little things when they could just trust us. And if we would have done this back, a long time ago, and just had that trust, this whole thing would have been much different. We would have had 50,000 people following us on all our stuff, and we would have had a bigger platform. But instead, everybody was skeptical, and they waited. And now they waited so long that a lot of people are still waiting. And it's really time to get off of that, and it's time to stop waiting. You have a powerful source of information that is essentially a tool to be used, and it needs to be used. It breaks my heart when people are saying, oh, they care about this, but they didn't even know. I mean, there's no way. We're not going to reach the general public if we can't even reach the people who care about it first. So I would beg everyone to do what they can. I know many of you have done everything you can, and I believe that, and I thank you for that. But there are plenty of people who are not. And if you're watching and you're still saying, well, I don't know, I thought maybe like Tobacco Free Kids funded him, or Aaron Mills is his best friend, and all this stuff, just stop it. Watch the movie and make a decision after that. Just stop spreading weird stuff, because it does hurt everything we're all trying to do. So I know the people watching this actually are the best people that were supporting us. So really, whining aside, sincere thanks for joining us on this huge journey. It was legitimately a huge journey. It was very confusing and very long and very tiring, and all this uncertainty. Thank you for joining us. Many of you all the way back 5 years ago to when we didn't even know what the heck we were doing. All we knew is there was an important number of 1 billion people at risk, and there was lies and things keeping those folks from making choices. And here we are 5 years later, and I cannot believe I'm still talking about this topic. But we really want to see the job done. It's too important to give up. We feel like we can help, but we do need help as well. So thank you guys for your help over the years, and I look forward to continuing. I mean, ultimately, as much whining as I'm doing, we are still very committed to getting the job done. We just know that we have to ask for help, and so that's what we're doing here. So, all right. Hopefully that was good. I wrote that last night. No, I'm just kidding.
Kev.
No banjo song at all. I'm a little disappointed in you, Aaron. I'm going to go a little more personal than I normally do throughout the show and at the end. I had other motives for watching this film. I had other motives for supporting the film, where I already knew that nicotine could help people. And I don't need sympathy. I don't need GoFundMes. I don't need any other things except for people to listen for a second that are doubting Aaron and his wife and his team and their integrity. Because I asked Aaron a question before I knew he was doing the film, or I didn't know he was doing the film. He was thinking about it. And he answered my question twice. And he didn't tell me a lie either time. So when my wife has Alzheimer's and could possibly benefit from a chemical or a plant or whatever it is you want to call it, I'm interested. You've got my fucking attention. So I don't care about who funded what at the moment. That's like saying if a tobacco company funds a cure for something. So we won't go any further on that. But there was truth. There was pro-human. There was stunning things that I couldn't find, that I was referenced to, and then in my notes found. Will it work for my wife? I don't know yet. I don't know everything yet because I don't know nicotine as much as I thought I did. So you can take your doubts and watch the film and then come back to me and say, well, this was no good. If that's your opinion, that's great. It's not mine. So I'm sure we're on the side of everybody in the room wanting to see it or have seen it. I hope you all have. There's a lot bigger reasons in the world to love your neighbor, and I'm going to leave it with that because I stole it from Aaron.
So, there were some people that said that they couldn't hear Kevin very well. I will amp the volume on the recording for that part because it's very important that everybody hears that. And I'm not going to ask him to repeat it. But, this thing that we do and what we do is important. Our whole mission is to help people not die. That's what that has been our goal. I've said on this show, I really don't care about vapors. It's the smokers that I care about. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. You guys, the miracle has occurred for. You found the technology. You're on the journey. We have to find those smokers that are willing to take that first step, that are ready, because ultimately that is their choice. They have to want to quit smoking before it will really work. Yes, we have had accidental quitters. And yes, it does occur, but really we have to figure out ways to bring information. And that's this show. That's Demetrius and Phil's Smokers Show. That's A Billion Lives. That's You Don't Know Nicotine. We have to get the information into their hands and let them absorb that content, think about it, and, think for themselves. Because ultimately, like I said a while ago, you can scream facts at people until you're blue in the face, but unless they're really ready to absorb that, it really doesn't do anything. And yes, Kevin and I are known to yell at people on Twitter. I made the Surgeon General cry on Twitter. It happens. And it doesn't work all the time. Obviously, we're screaming love at the world, but if they're not really ready to listen, then we're just screaming. So my idea, my thing is that every one of us, I'm sure that there are still every person that's in the chat room, everybody that's listening to the recording, everybody that's watching this on Twitter or on YouTube, they know somebody that still smokes. I'm positive that we know people that still smoke. Those people need to see this film. And if that means that you buy a $6 gift card for Ibex, then you do that. If you if they only get a month of watching this film, and I've watched it a couple times, and I don't have it memorized. I still don't know everything that film has to give. Plus, he's got 400 hours more of stuff. So there's always going to be more stuff to learn. That is unreasonably amazing amount of content that he still has, because the movie's only 95 minutes. So he has 400 hours. I mean, you think about that. This is 1/400th of the film. I mean, it's 1.5% of the content that he has. So, literally every one of us needs to pay for a month of this. and see what Aaron does in the next 30 days to add more. And then at the end of that, I'm sure that there's going to be more stuff that's added to that platform that you can watch to bide time while Aaron adds even more stuff. What we have to do is grow that platform so that we have the ability to absorb the 400 hours of stuff that he still has yet to produce and generate for us. He might have commercials that he has to film and other things, but eventually he's going to be able to sit down at the computer and sit at the editing suite and make little packages of information that we can absorb and eat and be able to spread to the world. If we have to do that, it's worth $6 a month. Or you could be amazing and awesome like the grumpy old gal. And I normally would never say that, by the way, but
sweetest grumpy gal I've ever met, but I'll let her call herself that if she wants.
She calls herself that constantly, and I correct her, and she still does it anyway. But you could pay for a whole year, and I don't know what it costs, but it can't be extremely expensive, just to be able to have this information when it is able to be produced. This is an opportunity for us and for everybody else that we infect, because I mean that's what we're doing here. We're spreading a virus. This is an information virus. We have to figure out ways to counter the misinformation, the misinfo pandemic that we've we did a whole show talking about how information spreads like a virus. Really, we have to figure out ways to do that, and if that means that we have to grow this platform, then we do that. We've talked about the definition of insanity on this show multiple times, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This is the perfect time to prove that we're not going to do that. We talked about political change and that the fact that we are going to have to learn ways to interface with a political climate that is the complete opposite of what we've been dealing with. We have to do that as well. So we have to learn to change. If we want to win, we can't keep using a strategy that has proven that it doesn't work. So our job now is to help this platform. I'm pointing at the IBEX screen on the computer. We have to help IBEX grow so that it can offer us the opportunity to absorb more content, because ultimately we're learning every day. It doesn't matter. You may have heard the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true. We can learn new stuff every day, and we should be learning as part of our evolution as humans. We should be learning as we live. And if we're not going to learn, that is, the downfall of us. We have to change. We have to become more than what we already are, and we have to try a different path. So, yes, let's support IBEX. Let's support N43 Records. Let's support all of these things that help us. And obviously, good music is a good thing to have. There's some good tunes on here. I have that window open as well. So
thank you.
let's do that. Let's do what we can. We support those that support us. And Aaron has done nothing but support us. He has, no other dog in this other than he wants to bring information, and to do that, it costs money. So let's do that. $6 a month is not bad. $59.99 a year, that's not bad. That's a couple bottles of e-liquid. And I know some of you guys go through a bottle a day. So that's literally, 2 days of vaping. And I'm sure you still have a couple bottles of liquid in the cabinet over there that you can use. So anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for coming. Let's do this thing. Let's support this film. Let's watch the film. Let's rewatch the film. Let's watch the additional content as Aaron brings it up. He's not going to get any sleep anymore because that's what he's going to be doing.
And just so you know, I'm not the one that does it, just so everyone understands. Like, we have, every piece has to go through a bunch of stages of sound and color and all that. Although the extra content, like some of this stuff will be simpler than a movie, obviously, because we're
you
trying
don't
to keep
need
it
a fancy
efficient.
soundtrack for
Yeah.
for
No
behind,
doubt.
you
I'd
know.
love to do that for the general public to get into something again, but like that's something we got to use what we have first, you know. So
Yeah.
I love it, and thank
Let's
you
grow
so much
IBEX. Let's support Aaron. Let's support knowledge. Right?
For knowledge. Yeah, that's what the IBEX is going to be, a home for a lot of knowledge. Like that's my personal passion for that, is to how do we get a lot of different people, because if you think about, if we can attract people who are seeking knowledge, what if they come for a different topic, but they land on nicotine? We're going to find new people here, but very few platforms are going to make this the featured content. Like this is the perfect way to do it, but we do need help in the short term here. So I love it, and I thank you for that spirit and that passion for us, because you give us support, we will give it back. It's not about getting rich. I literally am not rich. I'm driving a car with 200,000 miles on it. We're not trying to get rich. Every dollar pretty much is going back into our group to do more stuff. So thank you for believing in that, because I think that's hard. This world has had so many people take advantage of it. But when you find people who can be different, like try to go with them. And that's all we ask, is just, if you don't like it, you can cancel it. But for now, don't just watch just the movie. Believe in what we're building. And thank you for that. Not to keep going, but Patrick and Kevin, thank you guys for having me on the show. Appreciate it deeply.
So, thanks Troop and Mark and Skip and Sherry. Hello, Miss Sherry Dorsey, and Paul and Kevin and Danielle and Jan and Hamish and all the people that came. Obviously, I'm not going to
the best folks that I've seen. They're all here, and I love it. Thank you so much, guys. This was really a great honor. And Chris, who's in the movie, thank you for being here, dude.
Yeah. So,
very awesome.
Thanks everybody, and just remember, like I say at the end of every show, when we're done, shut the computer down, go, hug and tuck your kids in. Go find your wife and plant a big wet one on her. Enjoy the weekend, barbecue, watch football, do all the things that you normally like to do on the weekends, because Monday you're going to wake up and we still have a job to do, and we're going to do it. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to win. It just takes time. So thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Kevin, my friend. Thanks everybody else. And we'll see you in just 7 days. And I'm sure, we have Bard next week from Norway. So, he's staying up until like 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to come on to this show. So just come back, because we're bringing amazing, amazing guests on this show to be interviewed and to talk about whatever it is. Henage was here to talk about Thailand, and, obviously we had Eliana last week and Charles last week. We had 2 shows last week with amazing scientists and advocates for this product in this industry and life-saving clean nicotine products. So anyway, love you. I'll see you in 7 days. Bye, guys.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room. It's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just I don't know is killing people right now.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think, if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Most people who vape are current or former smokers. For the addicted adult smoker who switches, there's going to likely be a reduction in risk.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
Yeah. When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.